On the night of my wedding to my husband Qingpeng, his childhood sweetheart's son had a high fever, so my new husband left me, his new bride, to take care of his childhood sweetheart and her son, and didn't come home all night. The next day, he took my dowry money to buy nutritional supplements for someone else's child. I became the laughingstock of the whole village. Some even called me the overnight bride. And someone gave me the nickname Cold Hearth Wife. In my past life, I was just a maid who had her job taken away and had to take care of their whole family. I stayed at home, looking after his sick parents, yet Qingpeng let Sun Jiaodi move into the family quarters that the unit had allocated to us. Out of his monthly salary of 63 yuan, he only gave 13 yuan to the family for all our living expenses, and the rest he gave to Sun Jiaodi. It's laughable, really, in my past life. The only reason Qingpeng and I were able to consummate our marriage was thanks to Sun Jiaodi's father. If her father hadn't broken his leg and she hadn't gone home to take care of him, Qingpeng and I would probably have been husband and wife in name only for the rest of our lives. Sun Jiaodi made a huge scene after finding out, cursing me for being shameless, saying I spent all day seducing men and was always thinking about that kind of thing. Qingpeng actually went to appease her, saying it wasn't my fault, that he had poor self-control and couldn't resist. That was the first time Qingpeng spoke up for me. Ha, how ridiculous. Married life had to be explained to someone else. That one time, I got pregnant. When I was 7 months along, Sun Jiaodi's son pushed me into the river. I was rescued and taken to the town hospital, but the baby was lost. The impact to my abdomen caused severe bleeding, and my uterus had to be removed. I wanted to report it to the police, but Qingpeng disagreed. If you report it to the police, we'll get a divorce. You can't have children anymore. Who would want you? Don't worry, I'll treat you well. I'll have my nephew take care of you in your old age, but I would rather get a divorce and still report it to the police. Afraid I would file a report, Qingpeng confined me. My biological father died while putting out a fire at the factory. After his death, the factory gave me a spot to take over his job. In the end, Qingpeng gave it to his sister-in-law. After my father died in the line of duty, my mother disappeared without a trace. I was taken in by my uncle, or rather, his family moved into the brick-and-tile house my father had built. I don't know what Qingpeng promised my uncle, but my uncle's initial anger over the incident turned into persuasion aimed at me. In the end, with no way out, I jumped into the river to end my life. 1. The courtyard gate was knocked on. My husband's childhood sweetheart, Sun Jiaodi, was at the gate, holding her child and asking for help. Brother Peng, Huzi has a fever. Can you take him to the commune health center? Sob. Qingpeng pushed me aside, got up, and started putting on his clothes. You can't go. Her family is from this village, and she has siblings. Why should you, on our wedding night, be the one to go? Qingpeng put on his shoes while coaxing me. As for Xu Xia, you know what her family is like. Her brother won't look after her. I was so angry that I jumped out of bed barefoot. Anyway, you're not allowed to go. Even if her brother won't help, her father is still there, and Huzi's uncles and aunts are all very good to him. It's none of your business. Qingpeng was getting impatient. Dong Hui is my brother. Now that he's gone, I will do my best to help his wife and child. Don't make a fuss. I grabbed Qingpeng and wouldn't let him leave. My eyes were red. Qingpeng, tonight is our wedding night. If you leave on our wedding night and word gets out, how am I supposed to hold my head up in this village? Qingpeng hesitated for a moment, but the knocking outside grew louder and louder. In the end, he still chose Sun Jiaodi and her child. I promise I'll take them there and come right back. It's not safe for a woman and a child to be out on the road at night. Besides, no one will know I left. I still held on to him, refusing to let him go. In a fit of anger, he shook me off. I lost my balance and hit my forehead on the desk, which immediately started bleeding. He was startled, quickly helped me up, and laid me down on the Kong. Qingpeng, my head is really dizzy. It's okay, the wound is very small. You rest for a while. I'll take the mother and son there and come back. My head was too dizzy, and I didn't have the strength to argue. I only heard the sound of the door closing, and then I passed out. When I woke up again, the sky was still dark. Reborn. I sat blankly on the Kong, the big red double happiness character on the wall glaringly bright too. I picked up the mirror, looked at my wound, and simply treated it. I wasn't alone. I still had my grandmother, who had always loved me. I glanced at the clock, got off the bed, and opened my dowry chest. From inside, I took out a brand new bedsheet. I bundled up all the grain coupons, meat coupons, money, the house deed, household registration, the employment documents from the unit, and new clothes into a large package. After locking the chest again, I wrote a letter asking for help, shouldered the big bundle, and headed to my grandmother's house. My grandmother was getting on in years and woke up early. She was stitching the soles of shoes when she saw me and was very surprised. I'll make it brief. Grandma, I want a divorce. Please help me hide these things. When my grandmother saw my forehead, her eyes instantly reddened. Without asking a single question, she led me to a corner of the pigsty. Beneath a pile of weeds was a vegetable cellar. After putting the things away, I told my grandmother not to worry and hurried back to the Ching family. I was feeling a bit weak, so I lay down and slept for a while longer. The next morning, Ching Peng returned. He was holding the child, followed by Xiao Qingmei, and they all came back to the village. Some auntie teased, "Peng boy, off doing good deeds again. Pengzi just loves to help others, ha ha ha." The whole way was filled with the aunties' teasing and laughter. How could Ching Peng not catch the teasing in their words? He just smiled and didn't respond. At this moment, rumors were spreading like wildfire in the village, and my nickname, the Cold Stove Wife, was once again confirmed. After he sent Sun Jiaodi and her son back, he came home and didn't even have time to glance at me before heading straight for my dowry chest. 3. Seeing the lock on the dowry chest, he finally turned to look at me. He saw me sitting on the Kong, staring straight at him, and noticed the shocking wound on my forehead. He wiped his face guiltily. Yesterday, the health center was empty, and Jiaodi was scared being alone there, so I remained silent, staring straight at him without a word. He sat on the edge of the Kong, taking my hand. He said, "Shu Xia, Huzi is really sick and needs some nourishment. Could you give me some of your meat and sugar coupons?" Ching Peng and his good friend both fell in love with Sun Jiaodi, because Lu Donghui's family was well off and offered a higher bride price. The Sun family married Sun Jiaodi off to Lu Donghui. Perhaps what you can't have will always be the best. This matter became the greatest regret of Ching Peng's life. In his past life, he used my money and coupons to buy meat, brown sugar, and nutritional products for Sun Jiaodi and her daughter. I worked like a beast of burden in their home and still had to toil in the fields. From the moment I married into their family, his sister-in-law turned into a Lin Daiyu, constantly either sick or fainting, washing clothes, cooking, feeding the pigs and chickens. I did all the work alone. His parents also seemed to have aged overnight, unable to do any work at all because I only graduated from high school. I still had to find time to tutor his nephew. If he didn't do well on his exams, he blamed it on me not putting in enough effort. Scenes from my past life flashed through my mind one by one. Hatred churned inside me. I suddenly pushed Ching Peng away, and caught off guard, he fell to the ground. I got out of bed and put on my shoes. "I want a divorce. We haven't officially registered our marriage yet, because the last time we tried, Sun Jiaodi sprained her ankle, and the time before that, Sun Jiaodi's son split his head open. Actually, I wasn't even old enough to register for marriage by my real age. Since I was very smart as a child, my mother wanted me to start school early, so she changed my age on the household registration by 2 years. But after changing the registration and starting school, I was too young to sit still in class. In the end, I ended up repeating first grade for 2 years. In the countryside, holding a banquet is equivalent to getting married. I want to make a big scene so that the whole village knows how inhumane their family is. I want a clear and unambiguous annulment. I'm actually quite grateful that Sun Jiaodi repeatedly prevented me from getting the marriage certificate, saving me from the biggest trouble. Ching Peng's mouth, which was about to curse, instantly shut, and his sharp eyes turned to me. The money and tickets were living subsidies from my dad's factory, which I saved by scrimping and saving. Why should I give them to someone else's child to build up their health? You want it? I curled my lips. Dream on you. Ching Peng's face instantly darkened, and he stood up from the ground with a jerk. Shu Xia, what do you mean by this? Before we got married, you promised to help me take care of Jiaodi and her child. I could hear the suppressed anger in his tone. I don't mean anything. I regret it. Take care of it yourself. It has nothing to do with me. Are you messing with me? You tricked me into holding the banquet and now you've shown your true colors. Don't think that just because we had the banquet, you're my legitimate wife. Don't forget, we haven't registered our marriage yet. I can kick you out anytime. Just then, the mother-in-law came in. You brat, what nonsense are you talking? She rushed in and slapped Ching Peng twice. In my past life, I never knew until I died what kind of person my mother-in-law really was. She would take my side openly and even hit her son, but she never stopped him from taking care of Lu Jiaodi. She would warn Ching Peng's sister-in-law not to bully me and would scold her, sometimes even hitting her with a willow branch, but she would secretly give her sister-in-law money and indulge her in slacking off and not working. A person like that, in my past life, I regarded her as my closest family. I dodged the hand Ching Peng's mother reached out to grab me. Auntie Ching, Ching Peng is right. We're not really husband and wife. No marriage certificate, no Consummation, Shu Xia, isn't it just because I didn't consummate our marriage with you last night? Stop making a fuss, give me the ticket first. Tomorrow we'll transfer the job to Jowdy. I promise I'll consummate the marriage with you, and you won't have to go to work anymore. I couldn't even imagine how he could say something so shameless before I could say anything. Qingpeng's sister-in-law jumped out. Why should our family's job be given to son Jowdy? Qingpeng's mother also looked disapproving. Jobs in town are so valuable now. One job can sell for over 1,000 yuan. Qingpeng, I wouldn't say anything if you gave Jowdy some small trinkets, and helping her out occasionally is kind of you, but you can't give away the job. Give it to your sister-in-law instead. Your brother's family has a son, and he can take over in the future. Mom, Jowdy is struggling alone with her child. If I don't help her, who will? She has no income. A woman can't even fill her stomach by farming. With a job, Jowdy can support herself and her child with her salary. No way. Second brother, I'm your sister-in-law, and Xiaobao is your own nephew. With a job in town, Xiaobao can go to school there. How can you not think about your nephew's future? Brother Peng, a delicate voice came through. The moment I heard that voice, I felt physically sick. Sun Jowdy came carrying her child. She had waited at home for a long time, but Qingpeng hadn't delivered the meat coupons, so she decided to come and check. Just then, she overheard the argument about the job. With tearful eyes, she looked at Qingpeng's mother, her legs giving way as she fell to her knees. Auntie, please have pity on me. It's too hard for me alone with the child. Since Don Hui died, I've had no one to rely on. Sob sob. At that moment, I stood by watching the drama unfold. In my past life, I never knew how they finally reached an agreement. Son Jowdy, what does your dead husband have to do with our family? You're raising the child of the Sun family, so why come asking for our family's job? Don't cry here. Crying won't do you any good. Qingpeng's eldest sister-in-law wore a look of certainty. Qingpeng's mother shot a glare at her eldest daughter-in-law. Shut up. How can you talk like that? Then she went to help son Jowdy up. Jowdy, I've never interfered when Qingpeng spends money on you, but this job really won't do. If word gets out that our family gave you the job, it wouldn't be good for your reputation either, don't you think? Besides, given how your family acts, you wouldn't be able to keep the job anyway. What do you say? But don't worry, once the housing unit from Qingpeng's workplace is allocated, you can take the child and move in. You can go to the city, and Qingpeng can set aside part of his salary to help you. The child can even attend school using Qingpeng's work unit quota. What do you think? Now I finally see how shameless this family is. Before the person directly involved could even say a word, they had already arranged my job and decided who I should be sent to. They even arranged the house. I never expected that in my previous life. It was Qingpeng's mother's idea to take son Jowdy to live in my house, but I don't understand why Qingpeng's mother would go to such lengths to coax son Jowdy. Son Jowdy seemed quite pleased with Qingpeng's mother's suggestion. She slowly stood up and said one word with a pitiful tone, okay. Only I could see the barely concealed calculation in her eyes. Qingpeng's sister-in-law wore a satisfied smile. To her, it didn't matter who Qingpeng gave his money to, as long as she got the job. Qingpeng also breathed a sigh of relief, as if the matter was settled. 3. When son Jowdy came in earlier, she hadn't properly closed the courtyard gate, so now several aunties in the yard were watching the commotion. As I walked out, I shouted loudly to the aunties outside, "Aunties, did you see that?" Before I even said a word, the Qing family gave away my job. This family devours people without spitting out the bones. I want a divorce. At these words, Qingpeng immediately glared at me, as if he wanted to tear me apart. The smile on Qingpeng's sister-in-law's face froze. Cheng's mother looked as if she had been choked by the throat. Just then, Cheng's father walked over and gave Qingpeng a meaningful look. Qingpeng, take your wife back inside and stop making a scene out here. Qingpeng understood and came to grab me. I immediately ran outside, shouting, "Help! The Qing family is killing someone." I ran all the way to the village chief's house. Many villagers heard my cries and came out to watch the commotion. Qingpeng chased after me. There was no way I could outrun him. Before I reached the village chief's house, he caught me and carried me back on his shoulder. "Help, village chief, help, we never registered our marriage." Qingpeng, arresting me like this is illegal detention. I'll sue you. I'll make you go to jail. I'll hang myself at your doorstep. Help, my father is a hero. You're abusing a hero's child. The village chief still didn't show up, and the villagers only offered verbal advice, because everyone considered it a family matter. No one could interfere. Peng, don't hit your wife when you get back. You're newlyweds. Things will settle down gradually. Chung, why haven't you two gotten your marriage certificate yet? TSK, that won't do. Oh dear, put Shu down now. let's talk this out properly. Just as they were nearing Qingpeng's doorstep, my grandmother arrived and blocked his path. Qingpeng, what do you think you're doing? Did our family sell Xiaoxia to yours? Qingpeng didn't dare to leave at this point. Being labeled as disrespectful to elders would harm his reputation, especially since he had a job in town. Grandma, stop, call me Grandma Xia. My granddaughter hasn't registered her marriage with you, so I'm not your grandmother. Put her down right now, or I, an old woman, will go to the police station and report you for kidnapping. Qingpeng's face turned pale upon hearing this. He immediately set me down. At that moment, Qingpeng's father also came out. Xiaoxia's grandmother is here. Please, come inside. No need. I heard they haven't registered their marriage yet. Without registration, they're not husband and wife. Xiaoxia, come home with grandma. Grandma grabbed my hand and was about to leave, but Cheng's father stopped her. In-laws, you see. The kids are young and don't understand. It's just a little marital spat. Why are you taking it so seriously? In our village, holding the banquet counts as the ceremony. That's the tradition passed down for generations, isn't it? Humph, what's this? Do you think the Communist Party's word doesn't count? How many years has it been since we broke the four olds and welcomed the new society? The radio broadcasts about a rule of law society every day. A rule of law society, huh? Are you trying to break the law? Don't think I, an old woman, don't understand. Let me tell you. Qing Laosi, without a marriage certificate, it's not a marriage. If you dare to force someone to stay, I'll report Qingpeng for hooliganism. I've been a women's director for half my life. Try bullying a woman and see what happens. A few words left Cheng's father speechless. Watching my grandmother argue fiercely for me, I couldn't stop my tears. In my previous life, I was under house arrest, and my grandmother had no idea. Just then, the village chief and his wife came running from another direction. Seeing the old village chief, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Actually, I had gone to the village chief's house early in the morning, but the door was locked. I knew the chief and his wife must have left before dawn to sell their saved eggs at the market. I slipped my plea for help through the crack in the village chief's courtyard door. Little did I know it was the end of the month. After selling the eggs, the village chief went straight to the commune for a summary report. His wife returned home alone and found the plea as soon as she entered the yard. She immediately rushed to the brigade to make a phone call. The village chief hurried back upon receiving the call, while his wife, frantic with worry, waited at the village entrance. In the entire village, I could only turn to the village chief for help, because my father once saved the village chief's youngest son from the river. When my father passed away, the village chief said, if you ever need anything, you must come to me, uncle. Actually, in my past life, the village chief had secretly approached me many times, asking if I needed help and even offering to help me get a divorce, but I was like someone under a spell back then. Come on, let's talk inside. Tell me, what happened? The village chief spoke, and the villagers followed him into the yard. I helped my grandmother along and returned to the Qing family with the village chief. As soon as I entered the house, I saw that my suitcase had been pried open. I flipped the suitcase open and asked, who did this? The eldest sister-in-law of the Qing family stepped forward without any shame. I did it. So what? You married into our family, so we're one family now. What's wrong with me taking a look at your dowry? But it turns out you were just putting on airs with that shabby suitcase. There's nothing in it at all. I'm going to report this to the police. This is theft. Even if I haven't officially married into your family yet, and even if I had, you can't just break my lock without permission. That's the behavior of a thief. His eldest sister-in-law felt a bit guilty when she heard about reporting to the police. I opened the box and it was empty inside. Why are you reporting to the police? This box of mine wasn't empty when it was carried in. Brother Zhang and second brother, who carried the dowry yesterday, can come and try lifting it now. At that moment, Brother Zhang and second brother, who were watching the commotion, were right there. The two of them lifted it and said, no, it was much heavier than this yesterday. The eldest daughter-in-law of the Qing family was dumbfounded. You shallow-minded thing. Old Mrs. Qing stepped forward and slapped her. The eldest daughter-in-law of the Qing family covered her face, looking wrong. Qingpeng glared at his sister-in-law with hatred. Old Mr. Qing, seeing his son's expression, thought that his son had already taken the things out last night, and today his sister-in-law had ruined his plan. But Qingpeng thought that his sister-in-law had hidden everything, because I was watching when the dowry was being packed. Qingpeng wanted to save face for his sister-in-law, and Cheng's father wanted to save face for his son. Why call the police? Just say what's in there and convert it into cash to compensate you. I was thrilled to hear that. I wanted to get back what I lost in my previous life. tickets, cash, and even the sheets and clothes. Totaling 400 yuan. Cheng's father nearly stumbled and fell. How much? Are you really daring to ask for that? My dad's factory gave me a monthly living allowance of 30 yuan until I graduated from high school this year, totaling 4 years and 3 months, which is 1,530 yuan. I gave my uncle 15 yuan each month for living expenses, leaving 765 yuan. Before I could finish, the crowd buzzed with murmurs. So, isn't Xu Xiao's uncle saying she didn't pay? Exactly. And that Dong Qiao even said they had been supporting Xu Xia for over 4 years in vain. 15 yuan a month is enough for the whole family to live on. Oh, what a black-hearted one, just like her mother. Her mother was a stepmother, and she was wicked. TSK, I continued, deducting the 180 yuan I spent on a watch for Qingpeng as a wedding gift, and the 60 yuan I spent on a set of clothes for his mother. Alright, stop talking, I'll pay. Before I could even finish calculating how much money I should have left, Qingpeng spoke up directly. In the end, the old lady brought out 400 yuan from the house and handed it to me. I reached out my hand to Qingpeng again. Give me back the money for the watch, the clothes for your mom, and the clothes for your sister-in-law. That's 312 yuan in total. Qingpeng flew into a rage. Xu Xia, that's enough. Don't push your luck. What do you mean? I'm not marrying you anymore. Your family didn't even pay a single cent as a betrothal gift. Can't I even take back what's mine? Are you a robber? Qingpeng's veins bulged, and he gritted his teeth. Mom, give her the money. This time, old lady Qing was unwilling. Why should I? My family spent money on the banquet yesterday. Aren't you just tricking us into marriage? I pointed at my forehead. If you don't give it back to me, I'll call the police and sue you. What is this? Abuse of women. In the end, I happily got 712 yuan. I knew this was basically most of the Qing family's savings, because in my previous life, not long after I married into their family, old Madame Qing fell ill. They scraped together every last penny and only managed to gather 1,200, which was just enough to save Qingpeng's mother. I wonder, in this life, without that life-saving money, what will happen to his mother? For the old village chief took a drag on his cigarette. Now that we've settled the money issue, let's talk about the broken engagement. Since you never got the marriage certificate, let's just call it off. No way, Qingpeng and his mother said in unison. I looked at Qingpeng. Are you trying to force me into marriage? Xu Xia, back then, you were the one who was so eager to marry me, weren't you? You were also the one who agreed to take care of Sun Jiaodi and her son, and you were the one who agreed to give up your job, right? Hearing all this, I wished I could drown my past self in a chamber pot. I let out a heavy sigh. Yes, I was the one who was eager to marry you back then, but now I regret it. So what? Am I not allowed to regret it? I don't want to jump into a pit of fire anymore since I regret it and won't marry you. The promises that followed are meaningless. I'm not your wife anymore, so why should I take care of your childhood sweetheart? Since I'm not marrying you, why should I give the job my father earned with his life to your family? Qingpeng's expression changed instantly, the anger on his face vanishing. He let out a sigh, and his tone suddenly softened. Xia, that's enough. Stop throwing a tantrum. Looking at the fake, nauseating smile on his face, I wanted to slap myself a few more times. Why did it take dying once to finally see clearly? I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have run off last night instead of consummating our marriage. I just thought, since Dong Hui is gone, Huzi is his only bloodline. I was afraid something might happen. Can you forgive me? I promise I'll discuss everything with you from now on. Even if I help them, it'll be with your approval. We can talk about the job later. I agree to go get our marriage certificate this afternoon. That way you'll feel secure. Are you trying to trick me into getting the certificate so you can put me under house arrest? I saw right through him just now. When I resisted, you insisted on carrying me back. Aren't you trying to put me under house arrest at this moment? I finally understood that in my past life, the one who had me confined was likely this seemingly honest father-in-law's idea. The village chief then spoke up. Marriage is a matter of free choice. Since Xu doesn't agree, this engagement is called off. From now on, you can marry whomever you wish, and you'll have nothing to do with each other. Zhang the eldest, returned the box to Xu. Although the Qing family was unwilling, since the village chief had spoken, they couldn't really force the marriage. The village chief stood up to leave. Wait a moment, Uncle Village Chief. I pulled my grandmother aside and whispered a few words to her. Her eyes filled with tears, and she nodded. I held my grandmother's hand, using my body heat to soothe her heart. Since everyone is here today, I want to ask you to make a decision for me one more time. I'm already 18 and have graduated. I want to sell the brick house my father left me. as well as my grandmother's house. As soon as these words were spoken, the room immediately buzzed with excitement. The reason I want to sell the house is that I know I can't drive my uncle's family away on my own. Even if I could, I wouldn't live in the village long term, and they would definitely damage the house. My grandmother and I have offended the Ching family today. I knew from my past life how bad the Chings are. If someone's dog poops on their land, they'll find a way to kill that dog. Living in the same village as people like that will only bring endless trouble. My mother was my grandmother's only child, although my grandmother has siblings in this village. They're all old and don't have the energy to look after her. My uncle's family won't give in easily either, so I might as well go all the way. I'd rather sell the house and use the money to buy one in town, so I can take my grandmother to live with me. My grandmother's house was also a brick and tile house that my father had renovated. Someone once asked if my grandmother would sell the house, but she refused. Back then, she wanted to wait there for my mother to come home. In my previous life, until the day I died, my mother never showed up again. I never understood. In my memory, my mother was very filial, so why did she leave my grandmother without a word and disappear? Pulling my thoughts back to the present, someone asked me about the house price. After some bargaining, and knowing that my uncle's family was living there, the buyers realized it would take some effort to kick them out. In the end, we settled on 3,600 yuan. My grandmother's house sold for a bit more than mine, because the yard was especially large and there were no complications. It sold for 3,750 yuan. Both houses were sold to two families who were planning to get married next year. To avoid any last-minute changes, we both signed the agreement directly and went to the town's property office that afternoon to handle the transfer. They also agreed that for my grandmother's house, we could move out within 6 months, giving us time to slowly find a place to live. After paying the deposit and signing the agreement, my uncle's family came over as soon as they heard the news. 5. My aunt immediately started scolding me harshly. "You heartless girl. Who told you to call off the engagement? Back when your father passed away, how much did the Ching family help us? How can you be so ungrateful?" She didn't say a word about the house, and was indeed very good at manipulation. She knew that bringing up the house would put them in the wrong, and back then the whole village helped out. Does that mean I have to marry every single one of them? Your father also died young back then. Your mother raised you and your brother, and the villagers all helped out too. Did your mother repay them all by offering herself to each one? Wait, that's not right. I remember your mother later married an outsider. When your father died, that family hadn't even moved here yet, had they? Aunt's face instantly changed. She slapped her thighs and sat on the ground crying. "I've raised you all these years for nothing, you ungrateful wretch." "Ha, Aunt, you live in my family's house, and I pay for living expenses. You're not raising me for nothing. I even have to wash your clothes and cook for you. You're full of crap. When did you ever give me living expenses? Woo-woo. A little girl like you already knows how to lie. I, your aunt, have been so good to you. How can you be so heartless?" "Shush ya. Don't be ridiculous. Marriage is no joke. Since the banquet has already been held, you're married. Just live well with Qingpeng. Qingpeng is a good kid." What high-sounding words, spoken so beautifully. "Uncle, I'm 18 now. I can handle my own affairs." "Aunt, do you know why I always ask you to press your fingerprint every time I give you money? I keep them all, because they're evidence." Everyone. Yes, I was smart just that once in my life. Or maybe it wasn't me being smart, because it was the village chief's youngest son who taught me. Back when he hadn't yet joined the army after my father passed away, he always secretly helped me. At first, I handed over the full 30 yuan each month to my aunt. When he saw that I gave all the money to my aunt, he gave me advice. "You only need to hand over half for living expenses. If you don't keep any money for yourself, what will you do if they refuse to pay your tuition in the future?" I listened to this brother very much, because ever since my father saved his life, he always protected me like a guardian. I decided to pay 15, and he taught me to prepare a notebook, having her sign every time I gave her the money. Otherwise, when I grow up, what if they come asking for living expenses? I think that makes sense, but Aunt couldn't write, and my brother somehow got me a box of ink pad from somewhere, so every time we just had Aunt press her fingerprint. Later, I finally found out where the Indonesian came from. He had been beaten up by Uncle Village Chief, and Uncle Village Chief's Indonesian had gone missing. I never expected that these handprints would actually become evidence now. Aunt In-law's eyes were blazing with fury. "Uncle, I've sold the house. You'd better move back to the old house soon." "What? You sold it and called off the engagement too? Where will you live in the future?" "I'll buy a house in town." "Then instead of selling it to someone else, you might as well sell it to me." "Your uncle, Yuri, right, Uncle. So how much are you planning to pay for it? I smiled as I looked at this blood relative, the last straw that broke the camel's back in my previous life. He was clever enough not to quote a price directly. I'll pay whatever you sold it to others for. Don't worry, Uncle won't shortchange you. I'll even throw in a little extra if needed. As soon as he said that, some of the villagers began to question me. That's right. Why didn't this girl ask her uncle first? How could she just sell it to an outsider? Exactly, she has no heart. She doesn't even understand the principle that blood is thicker than water. No wonder they say other people's children can never be truly raised as your own. Facing all the gossip, I couldn't care less. Alright, I sold it to the outsider for 3,600, you can give me 3,500, my grandma and I still need to buy a place near where I work, any less, and we'll end up sleeping on the streets. My uncle's eyes flickered. Fine, then tear up the previous agreement. The buyer was about to get angry, but I stopped him with a look. Uncle, please pay the deposit first. I've already received a 300 yuan deposit from someone else. If I sell it to another person, I'll have to compensate them 600 yuan. Uncle, you also need to sign an agreement with me. If the full payment isn't made within 3 days, the deposit won't be refunded, then I'll find another buyer. Uncle was unsettled. His whole family was lazy and idle. They couldn't even come up with a deposit, let alone have the money to buy a house. I'm your own uncle. Why do I still have to pay a deposit? Even brothers settle accounts clearly. But as far as I know, your family doesn't even have the money to repair the old house, otherwise you wouldn't have lived in my house for so many years. Where did you get the money to buy a house? Uncle, let me write you an IOU first, and I'll slowly pay you back later. The people around trying to get something for nothing. The village chief couldn't help but laugh. Alright, that's settled. Everyone go back now. We'll head to the town together this afternoon to handle the paperwork. Auntie kept scratching and hitting Uncle as they walked away, a trail of scolding and blows following them. Big Brother Zhang and second brother Zhang, please help me take my trunk to Grandma's house. Grandma and I had a simple lunch, and in the afternoon, we smoothly completed the property transfer. I also got the money. I immediately deposited all the money into the credit union. I now have 8,684 yuan in hand. Grandma gave me a passbook with 1,200 yuan, which I didn't touch because it's her retirement fund. I wasn't in a hurry to go back. I bought a few cakes for Grandma at the supply and marketing cooperative and wandered around nearby to see if anyone was selling a house. Actually, housing is quite tight right now because, in recent years, after the educated youth returned to the cities, both jobs and housing have been difficult issues. In the end, I returned empty-handed and went home to watch the commotion. In the morning, my uncle dug up the foundation wall, and the buyer was very angry. He came down and gave notice that if we didn't move out within 3 days, he would throw us out. My uncle is a bully at home but a coward outside. My aunt has no family to back her up, and my uncle only has my father as a brother. Because of his pettiness, he has also offended many relatives. At this moment, no one is willing to step forward. With no other choice, my uncle's family began packing up the old house. A large section of the old house's wall had already collapsed. He started borrowing money everywhere. 6. After that, I began going to the town every day to look for a place to live. I searched for half a month, but the places were either too dilapidated or too expensive. In the end, I gave up. I decided to rent a place first and take my time looking for a house to buy. Rent a house soon so I can report to work. Shuxia. I was having lunch with my grandmother when someone outside called my name. I went out and saw it was the village chief's daughter, Sister Tsaixia. Come in, have you eaten? She was all smiles. My brother is back. My mom asked me to invite you over for a meal. Brother Yuanheng is back. Xia Yuanheng is the village chief's youngest son. I remember that in my past life, he never came home. The village chief's wife was so worried about him staying in the military and not getting married that she actually went gray with worry. I went back to the yard, grabbed a chicken, and followed Tsaixia to the village chief's house. What are you catching the chicken for? Put it back quickly, Sister Tsaixia. Grandma and I are moving, and we need to get rid of these things anyway. We might as well add it to the meal. Sister Tsaixia didn't refuse anymore. As soon as we entered the yard, the food was already on the table. The village chief's wife took the chicken from my hand and said, "We'll have this for dinner." Jinghong is the village chief's eldest grandson, 12 years old this year. The village chief's wife handed Jinghong a basket and said, "Take these to Grandma Xia." Auntie, no need. My grandma has already eaten. But the village chief's wife still insisted that Jinghong deliver the food. In my past life, my grandma never even had a Sip of water from the Chung family. Seeing the older brother I hadn't met in 4 years, I could hardly believe it. The frail, sickly boy I remembered was now a tough man. The silver star on his shoulder badge glinted coldly in the twilight. His brow bone was sharp as a knife, and the slight droop at the corners of his eyes held a hint of laziness. When he turned to look at me, his high-nose bridge cast a clean shadow on his profile. His jawline taut like a bowstring, the faint curve of his lips was like thin ice in winter, exuding a natural sense of aggression beneath his coldness. "Xia Xia, you're here." The magnetic, deep, and familiar voice brought me an infinite sense of security. I felt my cheeks burning with embarrassment. I never thought that after living 2 lives, I would still blush at the sight of a man. The village chief's wife gave me a meaningful smile after dinner. The village chief's wife walked me home and went to chat with my grandmother alone in the bedroom later. I found out that brother Yuanhing had come back for me. He would call and ask about me every time. A while ago, when he heard about my broken engagement, he immediately asked for leave from the army. My grandmother asked for my opinion. My face flushed red, and I shyly lowered my head. My grandmother understood what I meant, and sure enough, the next day, the village chief and his wife came to our door with a matchmaker. My request was very simple. I would always live with my grandmother, and he fully agreed. In his military unit in the capital, the division commander had already promised him a separate courtyard to live in. He asked me to bring my grandmother along and join him in the military. The news that the village chief's youngest son had proposed to me spread throughout the entire village. Some scolded me for not abiding by women's virtue, saying I had just broken off an engagement and was already getting engaged again. Others cursed brother Yuanhing for being an old cow-eating young grass, a 26-year-old marrying an 18-year-old wife. There were also those who said I was lucky to marry a battalion commander in this life. I don't care what others say. He had limited leave, so he mailed the documents to the military unit, and we started preparing for the wedding on our end. Because I was going to follow him to the military base, I gave my job at the machinery factory to Sister Caixia. After the Qing family found out about this, it was said that old man Qing gave Qing Peng a beating because he had been dragging his feet and hadn't gotten the marriage certificate with me. The village chief's family gave me a total of 1,666 yuan, 666 was the bride price, and they gave me an additional 1,000 yuan separately. They said this was the money for buying the job. I didn't want the money for buying the job, but Yuanhing forced it into my hands, saying, "Money is a woman's security." Having lived 2 lifetimes, I felt that this saying was truly the truth. 3 days later, we held the wedding banquet. On our wedding night, Yuanhing carried me onto the bed, his gaze burning, and said to me, "Xia Xia, actually, I liked you even before I joined the army." I gave him a punch. I was not even 14 years old back then. He smiled and leaned down to kiss my forehead. "Do you know why I joined the army?" I shook my head. He lifted my face. "Because the moment I saw you, I wanted to kiss you. I was afraid I would make a mistake, so I ran away to join the army, waiting for you to grow up so I could come back and marry you. But when I found out you were engaged, I regretted joining the army so much. If I had known, I would rather have made a mistake than let you go to someone else." I was ready to live out my days alone, but then heaven showed mercy. You called off the engagement. I knew my chance had come. My face flushed red. What was this feeling? My heart was racing. "Xia Xia, from now on, you are my treasure. I will make sure you are very happy." Everything fell into place. He had everything prepared, saying we should wait until after 20 to have children, as having them too early would harm my health. In the days that followed, I grew somewhat afraid of the night. 10 days later, we received the military marriage application report, and on that same day, we went to get our marriage certificate. He bought a lot of candy and handed it out to the staff at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Walking out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, we held hands, and he took me to a photo studio where we had our wedding photos taken. He bought me many beautiful clothes and little leather shoes. During this time, because I was eating well, I had also gained some weight. Standing in front of the fitting mirror, looking at my young and pretty self, I deeply realized how important a woman's choice is. It had been nearly a month since our house was sold. One day, the auntie who bought the house came to find me and handed me a piece of paper, saying she had found it hidden in the cracks of the cellar bricks while tidying up the house. When I opened it, my eyes widened in fury. Yuanhing took me to the local police station to file a report. It turned out that after my father passed away, my uncle's family had their eyes on our house. They placed my mother under house arrest, and she was locked up in this cellar. He spread the word that my mother had run away. My mother was beautiful. One night, my uncle tried to assault her, but she fought back and injured him. She managed to escape but was caught again. This scene happened to be witnessed by Qing Peng, who was up with An upset stomach. After school, Chungpung secretly went to the cellar to check on things. My mother borrowed a pen and paper from him and wrote this letter, documenting my uncle's family's crimes. Chungpung ignored my mother's plea for help and told no one. After the local police arrested my uncle's family and interrogated them, my uncle finally confessed that my mother was dead. During another escape attempt, my uncle chased after her, and she fell off a cliff. The police searched the bottom of the cliff and indeed found a female skeleton. Back then, Chungpung also used this incident to threaten my uncle's family, forcing them to give up helping me. My uncle's entire family was arrested, my uncle and aunt were sentenced to death, and the house and property were awarded to me as compensation for emotional distress. The others who knew the truth but failed to report it all received their due punishment. I hated Chungpung even more. In my past life, he knew everything but neither reported it nor told me. Chungpung was guilty of harboring a criminal, which cost him his job. Without income, his family was no longer the picture of maternal kindness and filial piety. With no money to give Sun Jiaodi, she stopped paying him any attention. A few days later, Chungpung's good buddy Lu Donghui returned to the village, causing an uproar among the villagers. Chungpung could hardly believe that his supposedly dead brother was still alive. It turned out that Lu Donghui had never been in trouble at all. Lazy and jobless, unable to support his wife and child, he went to the city alone to make money, but worried about leaving his family unattended, he came up with a plan to fake his own death. He knew Chungpung had feelings for his wife. Sun Jiaodi couldn't stop Lu Donghui and had no choice but to rely on Chungpung to keep him tied down. She told Chungpung that the child was his. Chungpung often drank with Lu Donghui, and indeed, on one occasion when he was drunk, he assaulted Sun Jiaodi. Cheng's mother also believed the child was Chungpung's, so she never stopped him from giving money. Chungpung devoted himself to taking care of his wife and child. He also made money outside, but he started a new family. However, his new wife gave birth to a daughter. He had no choice. Now that he was wealthy, he wanted a son to inherit his estate, so he came back to take his son. Sun Jiaodi refused to give him up, so Lu Donghui took out 2,000 yuan to buy him off. In the end, Sun Jiaodi sold her son to Lu Donghui for 2,000 yuan. Since the two had never registered their marriage, they avoided the hassle of a divorce. Chungpung refused to let Lu Donghui take the child away, because he had always believed the child was his. Lu Donghui beat Chungpung up, took Huzi away, and told Chungpung, "Let me tell you the truth, Chungpung, the child is my biological son. It was because I couldn't afford to raise him that Sun Jiaodi came up with the idea of having you support him." Chungpung went to settle scores with Sun Jiaodi, but Sun Jiaodi had her own way of dealing with him. She simply coaxed him into a good mood in bed. Yuan Heng came back driving a military vehicle. "After I buried my mother, I gave away or sold everything in the house, and then took my grandmother with me to follow Yuan Heng to the capital city. In the military family compound of Jing City, we were allocated a 2-story house with a courtyard. Yuan Heng held my hand with one hand and supported my grandmother with the other, saying, 'Grandma, from now on, this is our home.' The next day, my grandmother took me to her bedroom and opened one of the cloth bundles. Inside were ancient paintings and small goldfish. Back then, my grandmother had a poor family background. She only changed her status by marrying a poor peasant. However, after the family assets were confiscated, she had secretly kept a few things. I didn't have a job, so I started my own business and rode the wave of the times. When I returned to my hometown for the new year, I listened to my mother-in-law gossiping about the village. Sun Jiaodi and Chungpung got married. The Chung family split up because Chungpung's mother fell seriously ill. With no money for treatment, she gave up and passed away. Chungpung's father then found a widow, and the household has been in chaos ever since. Huzi was sent back. It's said that not long after Lu Donghui took Huzi away, his new wife became pregnant, and it was said to be a boy. Fearing that the boy would affect his own position, Huzi tried to push the new wife into the water during an outing, but she had already noticed his sneaky moves and dodged without a sound. Huzi fell in himself. The river wasn't deep, but a rock poked out one of Huzi's eyes. Lu Donghui then sent Huzi back, and now Chungpung is still supporting him. Yuan Heng held my hand as we walked in the snow. We saw Lu Jiaodi in a tattered cotton jacket, holding the hand of Huzi, who had lost one eye. The end. That's the end of the first story. Don't go away. The next story is even more exciting. In the year I turned 50, Gu Yunche had an affair with his female student. When he brought home a woman 15 years younger than me and demanded I leave with nothing, I felt like the sky was falling. Back then, to let him focus on his career, I gave up the opportunity to study abroad that my professor had offered me, willingly returning to family life to take care of his parents and raise our son later. I injured my right hand saving him. And I could no longer hold a scalpel. After decades of dedication and sacrifice, even if I hadn't earned great merit, I deserved some credit. But I never expected him to treat me like this. I turned my pleading eyes to my in-laws and son, but my in-laws, abandoning their usual old-fashioned and feudal demeanor, suddenly embraced democracy, urging me to leave with nothing so that Gu Yunche could marry his beauty and live happily ever after. The son I raised with my own hands actually found me shabby and ugly, asking me to let Gu Yunche enjoy happiness in his later years. I signed the divorce papers in despair, but they immediately kicked me out of the house, watching me freeze to death that winter. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in 1980. At that time, my father-in-law had just broken his leg, my mother-in-law had just been diagnosed with cancer, and my son was about to start first grade. I looked at everything before me with excitement, eagerly staring at my intact right hand, and burst into tears. This time, I would no longer sacrifice everything for anyone. I would pick up the scalpel again, devote myself to the medical field, and save lives. With a loud crash, the shabby wooden door was kicked open angrily by Gu Yunche. He rushed over in a few steps, pointing at me viciously, as if he couldn't wait to slap me in the face. That 200 yuan was something I willingly gave to Muge. If you dare to corner her in the dormitory asking for money again, don't blame me for being rude to you. I looked up at Gu Yunche's face, and the feelings of fluttering heart and fawning from my past life had all turned into disgust and nausea. The image of Gu Yunche, 53 years old in my past life, bringing a pregnant Jiang Muge to my door to force a divorce seemed to be right before my eyes. He smugly held the well-dressed Jiang Muge in his arms, telling me with disdain that the Jiang family had turned their fortunes around with his help, and from now on, he and Jiang Muge could coast through life and rise steadily. He wanted me to be sensible and voluntarily sign the divorce agreement and get out. My in-laws, who were snobs, cursed me viciously to curry favor with Jiang Muge, telling me to get out quickly and make room for her. My son followed suit. For his own future, he cruelly tied me up with a rope and threw me into the storage room, refusing to give me food or water, and insisted that I would only be released if I signed the divorce agreement. Starved to the point of near death, I begged them on my knees to let me go, but my son mercilessly cut my finger with a knife and forced me to press my fingerprint. As soon as my in-laws heard that Gu Yunche had given Jiang Muge 200 yuan, the pickled vegetables in their bowls instantly lost their flavor. Yunche, 200 yuan is 3 months of your salary. You, Gu Yunche glared at his mother-in-law with a dark face. You don't understand. Although Muge is just a poor student now, sooner or later I can help the Jiang family turn things around. By then, with the Jiang family's influence, my rise to success will be just around the corner. Besides, isn't Yue-chan also earning a salary? If you two tighten your belts a bit, you can surely save 200 bucks. After hearing Gu Yunche's words, my mother-in-law hesitated, staring at me before shifting the topic. Yue-chan, this is your fault. That girl Muge hasn't had it easy. She's Yunche's student, so it's only natural for him to help her out when she's in trouble. Don't be so petty. People will laugh at you. I let out a sarcastic laugh, my gaze falling on my in-laws. My father-in-law had broken his leg, and his monthly medical expenses came to 18 or 19 bucks. My mother-in-law had been diagnosed with breast cancer. Although it was in the early stages, surgery was still the safer option. I had mentioned it to Gu Yunche before, and he said we'd save a bit each month and take her for the surgery when it got warmer. For the past few months, our whole family had been scrimping and saving. A plate of pickled vegetables lasted 3 days, and we didn't dare finish it, yet he casually handed over 200 bucks without a second thought. In my past life, I bent over backward to please him, only to end up with his ruthless betrayal. In this life, let whoever wants this scumbag have him. I lowered my eyes with a cold sneer, raised my hand, and smashed the only dish with meat on the table to the ground. I've already done more than enough by supporting your parents with my salary. I have no obligation to support the woman you're seeing outside. Since you want to live off Jiang Muge, why not give her a title? Let's get a divorce. With that, I turned around and ran outside, not paying the slightest attention to Gu Yunche's furious curses behind her or Gu Jingzhe's heart-wrenching cries. I sprinted all the way and arrived at Professor Zhao's office before she got off work. Professor Zhao, about the opportunity to study abroad you mentioned last time, do I still have a chance? Professor Zhao looked at me with surprise, bent down, and took out the application form from the drawer. I've been waiting for you to come to me. Looking at Professor Zhao's kind face, my nose tingled and I choked up a little. In my previous life, she had earnestly talked with me about the future, telling me that this training opportunity was rare, Studying abroad for 5 years would at least make me a Weisstein. Upon my return, she also said that women should not be trapped in the trivialities of family life and urged me to go see the world, but I let her kindness down. For the sake of my family and children, I gave up this one chance to change my destiny and even resigned from my medical. After working at the hospital, I willingly came home to be their servant in the end. I was ridiculed by the whole family and died with my eyes wide open in regret. I quickly filled in my name on the application form, looked up at Professor Zhao with utmost sincerity, and said, "You're right, this time, I won't change my original intention of dedicating myself to saving lives and healing the wounded for anyone." On the way back, it felt as if I had shed a heavy yoke, and my steps became free and light. As soon as I reached the doorstep, a long mist aroma of braised meat wafted into my nose. With my in-laws ill and Gu Yunche not contributing his salary to the household, the family had been tightening its belt for months and hadn't had braised meat in a long time. I wondered what guest had come today that made my in-laws splurge so much. I tiptoed and peered through the window. My usually stingy mother-in-law was piling braised pork belly into Jiang Mugei's bowl, saying, "Eat more. Yunche told me you've been skimping on meat to save money, so today, eat as much as you want." Jiang Mugei didn't stand on ceremony either. She bit into the fatty and lean meat with big mouthfuls, and in no time, half a bowl of rice was gone. My in-laws watched eagerly, swallowing their saliva repeatedly. Gu Jingzhe's chopsticks, which were about to pick up more meat, were firmly pressed down by his mother. Gu Yunche looked at Jiang Mugei with admiration, his gaze far from innocent. I pushed the door open with force and deliberately stood at the entrance for a while, letting the cold wind rush into the house. My mother-in-law shot me a dissatisfied glance. "If you're so capable of running off, why bother coming back?" I ignored my mother-in-law's eye-rolling and pulled up a stool to sit next to Jiang Mugei, stuffing the meat from the plate into my mouth. "Miss Jiang, don't you know my mother-in-law has cancer and can't eat meat? If you feel bad about it, just return the 200 yuan Gu Yunche gave you. Buying this meat is a waste." Jiang Mugei looked at me awkwardly, unable to swallow or spit out the rice in her mouth. She immediately stood up and fumbled in her pocket for a long time before pulling out the crumpled 200 yuan reluctantly. She offered the money to my mother-in-law. "Auntie, I came today to pay it back. Teacher Gu has already been very kind to me. I can't put him in a difficult position." My mother-in-law shot me a vicious glare, gripping the corner of the money as she looked at Gu Yunche, not daring to take it, yet unwilling to give it back. Seeing this, I quickly snatched the money from Jiang Mugei's hand. "You really shouldn't put him in a difficult position. Since you like Gu Yunche, you should help him take care of the household. Look, there's always something that needs managing for the whole family, young and old. He's going to marry you sooner or later anyway, so you might as well get familiar with it early." Jiang Mugei stared at me in shock, her face flushing bright red. "Master's wife, Xinyue-chan, are you never going to stop?" Gu Yunche, showing no chivalry at all, dragged me into the next room, furious. "What exactly are you trying to do?" I let out a cold laugh. "Did I not make myself clear? I want a divorce, starting tomorrow. I'll be staying at the office until you agree to the divorce." Gu Yunche glared at me fiercely and slammed the door in anger. Staring at Gu Yunche's tall and straight back, I let out a sarcastic laugh. Soon he would realize that the trivialities of daily life could not cultivate the love he desired. Early the next morning, I packed my things and moved to the hospital dormitory. I thought that, given Jiang Mugei's capabilities, she would grit her teeth and hold out until I went abroad for further studies before causing any trouble. I never expected that after only 3 days of living in the hospital, Gu Yunche would come looking for me. "Xinyue-chan, have you had enough of this? If you're done making a scene, hurry up and come home." I closed the medical record beside me, looked up at the exhausted Gu Yunche, and asked, "Have you decided on the divorce?" These 3 days, the Gu family was truly bustling with activity in order to win Gu Yunche's favor. Jiang Mugei actually had the audacity to move into the Gu family and take over the task of taking care of the entire household. Unfortunately, she had grown up accustomed to a life of luxury, and as soon as the Jiang family declined, she immediately found Gu Yunche as her new support. Having never endured any hardship, she naively thought she could solve the Gu family's problems with nothing but enthusiasm and no real skills. She was simply naive. On the night I left, in an attempt to show off, she spent a fortune buying snacks and toys for Gu Jingzhe, and also bought cooked food and pickled vegetables for her in-laws. That night, the lights in the Gu family's house stayed on until after 10 o'clock, with laughter constantly echoing from inside. Perhaps it was a case of joy turning to sorrow. My mother-in-law, having eaten something too greasy and salty, suddenly developed a high fever in the middle of the night. Simple physical cooling methods were completely ineffective. It didn't work, so in a panic, Gu Yunche had no choice but to take her mother-in-law to the hospital. Upon arriving at the hospital, the doctor directly informed Gu Yunche that if his mother-in-law wanted to survive, she must undergo surgery immediately. Gu Yunche was away, leaving Jiang Muge to take care of both her father-in-law and Gu Jingzhe. Under Jiang Muge's attentive care, her father-in-law ended up with a bruised forehead. He knocked out a tooth and also broke his arm. Both of her in-laws were hospitalized, leaving Jiang Muge and Gu Yunche running around the hospital in a flurry. With no time to look after Gu Jingzhe, they had no choice but to leave him at the neighbor's house next door. The neighbor's kid is a good-for-nothing. I heard that Gu Jingzhe didn't even go to school this morning and followed that kid into. Shan went to catch some wild game. Gu Yunche furrowed his brows wearily and sighed, his tone softening. I won't get a divorce. I know I was wrong. From now on, I'll hand over all my salary to you. Just forgive me this once. Okay, Mom just had surgery and it will take a long time to recover. Dad's health isn't great either, and the family still relies on you for many heavy chores. Jingzhe is also starting. Now that she's in elementary school, you'll have to help with her homework too. Why not just take this opportunity to quit your job? I can support our family anyway. I stared coldly at Gu Yunche. This was exactly how he had persuaded me in my past life. I believed it, and what happened in the end? I quit my job, and Jiang Muge immediately got the opportunity to study abroad. The following year, Gu Yunche found a chance to follow as well. The country has passed abroad. They were always together, carefree and romantic. Gu Yunche spent all his money helping the Jiang family turn their fortunes around. Not a single penny left. No longer called home. I don't have a job, so I can only make ends meet by doing odd jobs. In the dead of winter, my hands were frozen black, yet I couldn't bring myself to buy a pair of gloves. She couldn't bear to put the food in her own mouth, saving it all for her in-laws and Gu Jingzhe. Several times, I collapsed at the doorstep from exhaustion, and Gu Jingzhe called Gu Yunche to ask him to send money back, but he always made excuses. He stammered and hung up the phone. Later, they returned to the country in all their glory, but Gu Yunche turned around and blamed me for not taking good care of his parents and son. I clenched my fists and deliberately taunted, why not just hire a nanny? The two of us can afford it with our salaries. I think Jiang Muge is a good choice. She's young, and we know her well. Your parents even like her. How can she work as a maid? She's a top student. Her hands are meant to hold a scalpel. How could they be buried in the trivialities of daily life? I looked at my rough hands with a pang of sorrow. Aren't I supposed to be a top student? My hands should be buried in the trivialities of life. Gu Yunche, your favoritism towards Jiang Muge has gone too far, Gu Yunche argued. That's not what I meant. I curled my lips in a sarcastic smile, pulled out a form from the drawer, and said, I'm going abroad. Gu Yunche snatched the form in surprise, his voice suddenly rising. This spot should belong to Muge. I looked calmly at Gu Yunche, but my hands, hidden beneath the table, were clenched into tight fists. What do you mean by it should be hers? Jiang Muge is just an intern. Why should such a good opportunity go to her? Does she even have the ability for it? Gu Yunche's chest heaved with anger. He stared at me, taking several deep breaths before calming down. He reached out to pull me, saying, you should take the initiative to tell the leadership that you're giving up the opportunity for further studies and letting Muge have this spot. Muge is young. If her skills aren't good, I can teach her slowly. She needs this opportunity for further study more than you do. I coldly dodged Gu Yunche's hand. What gives you the right? I'm a key member of the hospital staff. This spot is mine by right. What does Jiang Muge have? Just because she crawled into your bed, you can bend the rules and hand her this good opportunity. You're talking nonsense. After shouting, Gu Yunche awkwardly cleared his throat and lowered his voice. Muge and I are innocent. Stop spreading rumors. I'm stopping you for the sake of our family. Can you bear to give up your home for a chance like this? Gu Yunche was always good at psychological manipulation, shifting the blame onto me, making me feel guilty and foolishly letting him take whatever he wanted. In my past life, I was too responsible and couldn't bear to see Gu Jingzhe suffer, step by step falling into the trap Gu Yunche set for me. In this life, I'll just do what I want. What others do is none of my business. I looked at Gu Yunche coldly. Gu Jingzhe is your son. Your parents didn't give birth to me or raise me, so I have no obligation to fulfill filial duties. After the divorce, I'll transfer Gu Jingzhe's child support to you in full, without a penny missing. I need to get to work now. Dr. Gu, please go back and take care of your parents. Gu Yunche stared at me with furrowed brows, the gloom in his eyes practically spilling over. He was about to curse when suddenly a commotion broke out outside the door, chaos. And then the door to my office was kicked open with a loud bang. The man glared at Gu Yunche with a vicious look, a knife in his hand. I want your life. Before I could figure out what was happening, Gu Yunche grabbed my arm and pulled me in front of him. He cowered behind me, gasping for breath in panic. Yue-chan, he's clearly after me. He won't do anything to you. Stall him for me first, and we'll be safe once the police arrive. In my past life, I fell for Gu Yunche's lies and recklessly shielded him. When the man charged at me like a madman with a knife, I chose to sacrifice myself to save Gu Yunche. My right palm was nearly severed by the man, and I could never hold a scalpel again. I lowered my gaze to my right hand, then turned and grabbed Gu Yunche's arm, shoving him forcefully away. In this life, I will not give up my beloved medical career for this man. Gu Yunche glared at me with a twisted expression. Shin Yue-chan, you've lost your mind. I stepped back, watching Gu Yunche's disheveled state coldly. Gu Yunche, did you ever love me? Gu Yunche was stunned, and before he could speak, he was entangled by the ferocious man. The man was hell-bent on taking Gu Yunche's life, each swing of the knife carrying terrifying force. Gu Yunche had no way to dodge. He was slashed all over by the man, covered in blood, and I watched with a pounding heart. Just as the man raised the knife to chop down at Gu Yunche's hand, Jiang Muge's voice suddenly rang out from outside the door. Let go of Teacher Gu. I've already called the police. The man cast a cold glance at Jiang Muge, spat out a pair of adulterers, and without hesitation, chopped off Gu Yunche's hand. Gu Yunche let out a heart-wrenching scream before immediately passing out. When the police arrived, the man offered no resistance, only staring at Jiang Muge with a dark gaze. You little bitch, my daughter was killed by you. Gu Yunche was the lead surgeon for her operation. To let you practice, he didn't even value my daughter's life, leaving her to die alone on the operating table. Upon hearing this, Jiang Muge's face instantly turned pale. She shook her head, her voice trembling slightly. I don't know what you're talking about. The man snorted coldly. I have to make a big scene so the truth can come to light. You little bitch, I'm not afraid to die. I'm going to expose the affair between you two bastards, and we'll all go to hell together. Prison. Jiang Muge covered her ears in terror, her emotions spiraling out of control. You're talking nonsense. I didn't. Seeing Jiang Muge like this, my heart clenched tightly. In my past life, after the incident, a colleague I was close to came to visit me at home. She hesitated before speaking. Yue-chan, it's a good thing you resigned, otherwise, who knows what other dirty accusations they'd throw at you. Just focus on recovering. It's fine to stay home and take care of your husband and children from now on. Don't believe the rumors out there. They're all false. At the time, I was completely confused. When I tried to ask her more, she simply refused to say another word. Later, Jiang Muge went abroad for further studies, and Gu Yunche also left the country not long after. This matter was brushed aside lightly. Now that I think about it, the blame for Jiang Muge causing someone's death must have been pinned on me. Dr. Shen, Dr. Gu's surgery is too difficult. In our hospital, only you and Dr. Gu can perform it. You. Hearing the other doctor's words, I snapped back to reality and fixed my gaze on Jiang Muge. I was just so frightened that I'm feeling unsettled. The surgery definitely can't be performed now. Dr. Jiang is Dr. Gu's prized student. Why not let Dr. Jiang handle it? Jiang Muge stared at me in panic, her lips trembling as she was about to speak. The other doctors immediately chimed in. Since Dr. Shen can't do it, then let Dr. Jiang do it. Dr. Gu usually takes the best care of Dr. Jiang, and you are his only student. Many surgeries before were performed by Dr. Gu, who overruled objections to let you be the lead surgeon. You'll definitely have no problem this time too. Jiang Muge lowered her head in distress, then turned and fell to her knees with a thud in front of me. Master's wife, I beg you to save Teacher Gu. He is your husband. If you don't save him, his hands will be ruined. I stared coldly at Jiang Muge. So you know he's my husband. Since you know he has a family, why don't you keep your distance from him? Jiang Muge was stunned, tears streaming down her face. No, Teacher Gu and I have nothing between us. We're just teacher and student. You can't slander me like this. I sneered. Slandering me? I'm afraid the whole hospital knows about your affair except for me. In my past life, I was too slow on the uptake. I had worked with Gu Yunche for so long without ever suspecting him and Jiang Muge. In this life, I will strike first and make sure they have no face left to stay in the hospital. Jiang Muge glared at me viciously, pretending to be strong as she got up from the ground. If you're so heartless and refuse to save Teacher Gu, then I'll save him. Watching Jiang Muge walk toward the operating room, I curled my lips in a sarcastic smile. With Jiang Muge's skills, Gu Yanch's hand was definitely beyond saving. He should experience every ounce of the pain I suffered in my past life. Why can't I even make a fist with my hand anymore? Who performed the surgery on me? Was it Xinyue-chan? With her skills, reconnecting all the nerves in such a short time would have been no problem at all. She did it on purpose. She wants to kill me. I want to see her. I want to see her right now. Watching Gu Yunche, who was going berserk in the hospital room, I squeezed my right hand. In my previous life, my surgery was personally performed by Gu Yunche. At the time, he claimed that the nerves in my palm were completely severed, and he had done his utmost. All he could guarantee was that I could manage daily life, but I would never be able to hold a scalpel again. Back then, I never doubted him. I never imagined that for Jiang Muge, he would be so deranged as to tamper with the surgery. Teacher Gu, it wasn't your wife who performed the surgery on you, it was me. You, how could you possibly perform such a difficult surgery? You haven't even passed your internship yet. How dare you step onto the operating table? Jiang Muge, who gave you the audacity? Do you realize that because of you, this hand of mine is ruined? Gu Yanch's roar was so loud that I could feel it vibrating through the door of the hospital room. So he knew all along that Jiang Muge was an intern and couldn't be the lead surgeon, yet he dared to let her operate on others. Jiang Muge shrank her neck in fear, her voice trembling. It was Xinyue-chan who refused to perform the surgery for you. I was afraid of delaying the optimal treatment time. So, suddenly, a loud crash came from the hospital room. Gu Yunche hurled the hot water bottle at Jiang Muge. What do you know about the optimal treatment time? Do you really think you got this internship on your own merits? Without me, you're nothing. Jiang Muge, my hand is ruined. I'll never be able to hold a scalpel again. Your career is over too. How can you still save the Jiang family? Jiang Muge wept like a pear blossom in the rain, but Gu Yanch's eyes no longer held the tenderness of the past, replaced entirely by hatred. I slowly pushed open the ward door and placed the medicine to be changed at the entrance, thoughtfully instructing Jiang Muge, remember to change the medicine for Dr. Gu. Medicine, you're the attending physician. Why do I have to bring the medicine over? Jiang Muge glared at me with reddened eyes, her body trembling slightly. Xinyue-chan, you did this on purpose, didn't you? You deliberately provoked me into performing surgery on Teacher Gu. You deliberately made Teacher Gu resent me. And you deliberately prevented him from helping our Jiang family turn things around. I never expected you to be so vicious. I let out a cold snort. Do you even know whether you're capable of performing this surgery yourself? If I can't do it, you could have invited a doctor from another hospital to come and do it. My condition yesterday was indeed not good. I didn't dare to risk Gu Yanch's career. I didn't expect you to be so bold as to dare to take on such a difficult surgery. Or were you doing it on purpose, thinking that if Gu Yanch's hand was ruined, you could take his place and help the Jiang family turn things around? You're slandering me. Jiang Muge roared at me like a madwoman. I had no idea I could call in doctors from other hospitals. I only went into the operating room because no one else was helping Teacher Gu. None of you ever told me. You all conspired to set me up. I looked up at Gu Yunche, whose face was deathly pale, and deliberately taunted. I thought your precious student was something special, but it turns out, she's just an empty vessel. Gu Yunche stared at me, his lips twitching as if he was about to speak, when suddenly a knock came from outside the door. 2 police officers stood outside the door. They flashed their badges and stared at Jiang Muge with a serious expression. Comrade Jiang Muge, please come with us. One trip. Jiang Muge was detained by the police station for being involved in a major medical accident. The hospital's first reaction upon learning of this was to fire Jiang Muge since Gu Yunche was also implicated in this matter. The hospital suspended him from duty as well. With Jiang Muge taken away, the follow-up care for Gu Yanch's surgery fell on me. Looking at Gu Yanch's hideous and terrifying palm, I carefully sprinkled medicine on the wound. The suturing technique isn't very good. It will be slower if done well. Don't get it wet or exert yourself these days. Gu Yunche stared at me with red-rimmed eyes. Are you satisfied now? Are you satisfied that I ended up like this because of Jiang Muge? I tightened the bandage forcefully, watching Gu Yunche wince in pain as I curled my lips. What does it matter whether I'm satisfied or not? At least Jiang Muge showed mercy and spared your life. What about that little girl? I heard she was only in her teens. What were you thinking when you had Jiang Muge perform surgery on her? I stood up and looked down at him. Gu Yunche, you're a murderer. Gu Yunche struggled to get up anxiously. No, it was just a minor surgery. I didn't expect Jiang Muge to be that stupid. He looked up at me. I overestimated her. I thought she was as talented as you. He struggled to reach out and grab my white coat. I know I was wrong. given my current situation, you'll need to take care of the family from now on. Don't worry, I'll work hard to recover. I believe it won't be long before I can pick up a scalpel again. Mom just had surgery, don't tell her about this for now. And try to keep it from Dad as well. Take some time to pick up Jingxia. I'm craving the porridge you make. Go home and cook it after work, and bring it to me when it's ready. These past few days without you, I haven't been eating or sleeping well. I think I've lost weight. I sarcastically pulled my white coat out of Gu Yench's hand and handed him the divorce report from the Civil Affairs Bureau. I've already signed. Before I go abroad, I need you to come with me to the Civil Affairs Bureau and sign the papers. Gu Yenche tore up the divorce papers in excitement. I told you I won't get a divorce. Xinyue-chan, do you have no shame? Using something like this to force me into a divorce. I've already apologized. What more do you want? I'm warning you. Don't push your luck. I looked down at the torn pieces of the agreement on the floor and let out a sorrowful sigh. That's just how this era is. Divorce is shameful. But cheating isn't. As long as a man admits his mistake, a woman is supposed to forgive him unconditionally. I stepped on the fragments of the agreement and stared at Gu Yunche indifferently. If you won't agree to a divorce, fine, I'll be back in 5 years. I will immediately file for divorce. Gu Yunche, you better watch out. Gu Yunche waited for me to shout at the top of my lungs. How dare you? How dare you go abroad? If you dare to go abroad, I'll make sure everyone here knows you're a woman who abandons her family and child for her own future. Selfish woman, you're shameless. Are you rushing to divorce me because you have another man outside? Xinyue-chan, you are not allowed to go abroad. If you leave, who will take care of the whole family? I stared coldly at Gu Yunche's selfish and self-serving face. That last sentence is what you really care about. Gu Yunche, I am not your Gu family's maid. I am myself. I will no longer sacrifice my dreams and career for anyone. It's over. In my past life, I always tried to accommodate others, enduring everything with a traditional mindset, living this life anew. The truth I've truly come to understand is that only those who are free and selfish can live with peace of mind and fare better. I stepped out and walked toward the door of the hospital room, but a pair of dirty little hands blocked my way. Gu Jingxia looked up at me with his grimy face, his voice trembling with tears. Mom, are you abandoning me too? The day I gave birth to Gu Jingxia, I had a difficult labor and suffered a massive hemorrhage. To save money, my mother-in-law insisted on not letting the doctors perform surgery on me. I struggled in the delivery room for 3 days and 2 nights, with one critical condition notice after another being issued. When the doctor asked Gu Yunche whether to save the mother or the child, he hesitated for a long time before pushing his mother-in-law aside and choosing to save the mother, signing the consent form for a cesarean section. After giving birth to Gu Jingxia, I passed out. I was unconscious for 3 whole days, according to the doctor. If I hadn't woken up, there would have been no hope. The doctor said I was in a coma for 3 full days, and if I hadn't regained consciousness, I wouldn't have made it because my body was damaged during childbirth. I only have one child in this lifetime, Gu Jingxia. I have always been extremely good to him since he was little, giving him all the best things. No matter how tight our family's finances were, there was always meat in his bowl, and he never wore patched clothes. Perhaps I spoiled him too much from childhood, and in the end, I raised an ungrateful snake who bites the hand that feeds him. In my past life, it was he who personally pushed me out the door. At that time, I clung tightly to his hand, begging him to give me a way to survive for the sake of giving birth to him and raising him, but he still cruelly pushed me away, repeating those same words. I can't have a mother as incompetent and shabby as you. You embarrass me. This time, I will become the capable and glamorous mother he admires. And in return, he should endure some hardship. I bent down and gently touched his face, feeling a pang of sadness in my heart. After all, he was the child I risked my life to bring into this world. No matter how much I hated him, I could never completely sever this mother-child bond. Mommy isn't abandoning you. Mommy just needs to go to work. From now on, you'll live with Daddy, Grandpa, and Grandma. When Mommy comes back from work, I'll buy you lots of fun toys and delicious food. Okay? Don't listen to your mother's lies. Once she leaves, she'll never come back. Jingxia, hurry up and beg your mother not to leave. If she goes, who will take care of our whole family? Look, Grandpa and Grandma are old, and your father is sick. If your mother leaves, you'll become a completely unwanted wild child. Haven't you seen how the motherless kids at your school get bullied? That's what you'll become. Seeing my mother-in-law's mean and divisive expression, I stepped forward and slapped her across the face. Ever since the day I married Gu Yunche, She had been lording it over me and bullying me. I had slaved away for her for half my life, yet in the end, she still loathed and despised me, all because I was an orphan with no parents, unable to pave a smooth path for Gu Yunche's rise. So no matter how well I did, she took it for granted. Without a shred of gratitude, my mother-in-law stared at me in shock, then burst into loud wails. There's no justice. A daughter-in-law hitting her mother-in-law. I sneered at my mother-in-law. Someone like me, you should have Gu Yunche divorce me. It's not that I'm clinging to your family and refusing to leave, it's your son who won't divorce me. The plans for studying abroad are already set. Even if you use Gu Jingxia, I won't stay. If you don't want to raise him, send him to an orphanage. He's Gu Yunche's seed anyway. If he's not ashamed, I don't care either. Seeing my mother-in-law's stunned expression, I threw the payment notice from my pocket at her. I won't spend another cent on your family from now on. You can pay your own bills. My mother-in-law stared blankly at the payment notice on the floor, then burst into even louder sobs. Rebellion, pure rebellion. Xinyu Chan, if you dare leave, I'll have Yunche marry a new wife tomorrow. I let out a mocking laugh. Before he finds a new wife, make sure Gu Yunche divorces me first. Bigamy is a crime that lands you in jail. Because I had burned bridges with the Gu family, the hospital, fearing further repercussions, transferred me to another department. Thanks to the hospital, I hadn't seen anyone from the Gu family for days. On the day I was to leave the country, I got up early, planning to visit Professor Zhao one last time. She had given me opportunities in both lives. It was only right that I say goodbye to her. I stood outside Professor Zhao's office. Before I could knock, I heard Gu Yunche's agitated voice from inside. Why did you give this opportunity to Xinyu Chan? Do you know you've destroyed our entire family because of this? Dr. Gu, that's not fair. This is a rare opportunity. As her family, you should fully support her. Just 5 years. Once Xuechan returns, she'll be a key member of the hospital staff. This is a good thing. Gu Yunche snorted coldly. What good thing? I just need a woman who can take care of the home. I don't need a capable woman. The more mediocre she is, the more devoted she'll be to taking care of our whole family. Xinyu Chan had already agreed to resign. If you hadn't given her this opportunity, our family wouldn't have had so many problems recently. Now that she's leaving, who's going to do the housework? Who's going to take care of the elderly and the children? Now that she's leaving, who's going to do the housework? Who's going to take care of the elderly and the children? So angry that he laughed instead. Before Professor Zhao could speak again, I pushed the door open, stormed over to Gu Yunche, and slapped him across the face. On his face, Gu Yunche, you truly disgust me. Gu Yunche was stunned and raised his hand to hit back. I turned my face to dodge, and as he was about to strike again, Professor Zhao directly called the security guards to drag him out. Xinyu Chan, you're nothing but a bitch. You're shameless. Watching Gu Yunche being dragged away by the security guards, my hand trembled slightly. How could I have been so blind to fall for him back then? Professor Zhao gently took my hand and said kindly, don't care about what others think. You have to be brave and be yourself. I nodded gratefully, my voice a little choked. Professor Zhao, thank you. The moment the plane took off, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. Gazing at the scenery below the window, I let out a heavy sigh. From today onward, Xinyu Chan is reborn. 5 years later, dressed in my favorite red coat, surrounded by the hospital director and key medical staff, I returned to the hospital once again. In the past, Gu Yunche never liked me wearing brightly colored clothes. It wasn't until I went abroad that I realized vibrant colors actually make me look even more beautiful. The hospital looked the same as 5 years ago, with no changes. Many of the doctors in the hospital were still familiar faces. When they saw me, they warmly greeted me. Dr. Shen, you've really changed. You look so beautiful. I used to say you were a natural beauty, and Dr. Gu even said, mentioning Gu Yunche on such a wonderful day is a mood killer. Right, a total mood killer. I smiled at them and said, it's not a mood killer. Our divorce agreement hasn't been finalized yet. On the way to the Gu family's house, my feelings were somewhat complicated. When the car stopped at the Gu family's doorstep, I thought I had parked at the wrong place. The once clean and tidy entrance was now overgrown with weeds. If you didn't look closely, you'd think no one lived there. As I hesitated about whether to get out of the car and knock on the door, it was pushed open from inside, and teenage Gu Jingxia was carrying a whole bucket of water, struggling to walk out. In the past, I used to do all these dirty and tiring chores. I never expected that after I left, they would make Gu Jingxia do them. He's just a child. I angrily pushed open the car door, and Gu Jingxia froze in place the moment he saw me. He moved his lips and called out, Mom. I lowered my eyes and walked over to him. Where's Gu Yunche? Why are they making you do this? Gu Jingzhe lowered his eyes, tears streaming. Uncontrollably, Grandma died the year you left, the second winter. Grandpa was pushed out the door by Dad and froze to death. After my dad's hand was crippled, he kept drinking and didn't care about anything. He drank away all the money for my school fees. Last year, my dad had a stroke and became paralyzed, unable to get up anymore. Seeing Gu Jingzhe like this, my nose tingled with sadness, and I pulled him toward the house. As soon as I opened the door, a foul smell hit me so hard I almost threw up. Gu Yunche, lying on the Kong, moved his eyes. The moment he saw me, he frantically covered himself with the blanket and shouted, get out of here. I said. I placed the prepared divorce agreement beside Gu Yunche. Sign it. Gu Yunche let out a mocking laugh, then burst into tears. Xinyue-chan, I have wronged you. Now that I've ended up like this, it's entirely my own doing. I can sign the divorce agreement, but I have one request. Please take Jingzhe with you, I beg. You, looking at Gu Yunche, who no longer bore any trace of his former handsome and dashing self, I lowered my eyes. Okay, Gu Yunche signed the divorce agreement, and I officially divorced him, although I decided to continue taking care of Gu Jingzhe. To avoid the tragedy of my past life, I chose to keep my distance. I would only be responsible for raising him, unwilling to invest even a shred of emotion in him beyond that, so I sent him to a boarding school, where he would come home once a month. 3 years later, I achieved my wish and became the director of the hospital. Over these 3 years, I performed thousands of surgeries with 0 errors, was named the city's most beautiful doctor, and had my office filled with penance of gratitude. Story 2. My fiancé chased his mistress all the way to New York. Coincidentally, I was also in the Big Apple. A young girl knelt before me, crying her eyes out, insisting that true love was the be-all and end-all. True love, what a joke. I had my own ways to deal with the situation. My fiancé back in China had made a fool of himself yet again. He'd surrounded an entire airport just to chase after his runaway mistress. It was a small airport, and late at night, so the burgeoning public opinion was quickly quashed by the Willems family. Alas, he was still too late. The mistress had flown to New York one step ahead of him. I couldn't have cared less at first. Dealing with his paramour was Jason's own problem. However, this stunning Asian girl kneeling in front of me, sobbing pitifully, had drawn the attention of many passers-by. Standing on the top step, I frowned as I scrutinized her. Your name is Daisy, right? The girl was stunned, her tears hanging in the balance. She retorted stiffly, Daisy. I had some vague recollection of this mistress who'd been with Jason the longest, but that didn't mean she was worth remembering by name. Over the years, I'd known that Jason had been surrounded by women because he resented our engagement, but this was the first time one had come to confront me directly. I grew impatient. What do you want? True to her acting chops, her halted tears started flowing freely again, like a broken string of pearls. Miss Jones, Jason loves me. Please let him go. Stop harassing him. I raised an eyebrow. Harassing? I was so infuriated that I let out a cold laugh. Looking down at her, I said, Miss Daisy, is that something a mistress should say? I knew Jason long before you did. You're the third party, she spat, her face gradually contorting. She then lunged up the steps, trying to grab me. My bodyguards, quick on the draw, stopped her in her tracks. In the chaos, she twisted her ankle and tumbled down the steps. Gasps rang out around us. Amid the bustling crowd, camera flashes were going off secretly. My American-controlled company was on the verge of going public. I couldn't afford any mishaps. As I scanned the area, I saw Jason, clad in a black overcoat, burst through the crowd. He'd shed all his usual haughty dignity. His pitch-black eyes were filled with panic and tenderness. He took off his coat and draped it over Daisy's exposed long legs. Then, he pinched her chin and kissed her fiercely, his eyes brimming with possessiveness. In a hoarse, restrained voice, he growled, "Run again, and I'll break your legs." Daisy lifted her stubborn face. "I'd rather die than not have all of you." After their little display, they both turned to look at me in unison. Jason's black eyes were blazing with anger. "Melissa, didn't I warn you not to mess with Daisy? How dare you push her? Who do you think you are?" My brows knitted tightly. Who was causing trouble for whom? With Jason as her backer. Daisy looked smug. "Sister, you're getting old. Maybe you don't know that in today's society, the one who isn't loved is the third party. True love is the truth." Her tone was blatantly provocative. It was like a cheesy drama of the overbearing CEO and the innocent ingenue. The glass window beside me reflected my face. My long, straight black hair and cold, glamorous appearance made me look exactly like the villainess who tries to break up the main couple in a script. Beautiful, wealthy, and vicious. But I wasn't stupid, life wasn't a soap opera. I gave her a sardonic smile. Truth, funny, I happen to have a few truths of my own. Daisy shrank into Jason's arms like a frightened rabbit. Jason, when you said you wanted to have some fun, I allowed it. But if you want to bring everything out into the open, don't blame me for ruining the game. I squinted at him, not mincing my words. He was about to leave with Daisy in his arms. After hearing me, he sneered. Melissa, do you still think you're the only daughter of the Jones family? Stop daydreaming abroad. Maybe the next time we meet, you'll already be kicked out. The fact that the Jones family had an illegitimate child was no secret. Jason left under the protection of his bodyguards. My assistant, standing beside me with a solemn expression, said, Miss Jones, the head office in China has suspended all our cooperative projects. I squinted into the distance, prepared to go back to China. Jason, do you really think that illegitimate child can beat me? You've picked the wrong side. In the early days, the Jones and Willems families had risen to prominence together, joined at the hip. Later, the Jones family grew from a factory into a group, gradually building its own brand and relying less on the Willems family. But my engagement to Jason was arranged by my grandmother. She was a legendary female entrepreneur in her youth, the unchallenged authority in the Jones family. Her words were like divine decrees. Even after her passing, no one dared to disobey. As soon as I went home, the house seemed emptier than when I'd left 2 years ago. My mother, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, sat upright on the sofa reading the newspaper. I poured myself a cup of tea and asked casually, is everything sorted out? Yeah, that good-for-nothing man and his junk have all been thrown out, she replied. I frowned. You didn't let him get much of the property, did you? My mother looked up at me. Do you think I signed the prenuptial agreement for nothing? Then she let out a sigh. Back then, I was still indignant. Now it turns out that your grandmother was right. You're more level-headed than I am. I smiled helplessly. Did you hit them? My mother still had a touch of pride in her expression. Mike, that vixen, and their illegitimate child. I hit them all. I gave her a thumbs up. Next Wednesday is the golden wedding anniversary of the 2 elders of the Brown family. You go for me, I said. She suddenly grew serious. The cooperation with the Brown family mustn't be lost. I swirled the cup in my hand nonchalantly. Of course, the Brown family was deeply rooted in LA. The 2 elders were kind, low-key, and had a wide circle of friends. So it wasn't strange to see Jason at the golden wedding, and there was Daisy by his side. The beaming woman looked over at me and raised her red wine glass from afar, giving me a taunting smile. I could just make out her lip movements. I'm the winner, loser. I was annoyed. After all, my engagement to the Willems family hadn't been officially broken off yet. Jason blatantly bringing his mistress to such an important banquet in the circle was a slap in my face. Quite a few people around were already waiting to laugh at me. Nora, beside me, had a smug grin. How about it, baby? I invited Daisy. I pinched her face. Are you trying to piss me off? How could I bear to? I'm here to stand up for you, she said, winking mischievously. Do you know why Daisy is so full of herself these days? I replied calmly. She probably thinks she's latched onto the Willems family's ship, and the Willems family has sided with my father's illegitimate child. Mike had been putting on an excellent act for years. My mother's health had never been good, and he'd been running the group's affairs. Not only had he hidden the fact that he had an illegitimate child older than me, but he'd also made the outside world believe that he held the reins of company and had even secretly promoted his illegitimate child to the deputy general manager position of a subsidiary. Jason was chatting merrily with that illegitimate child. The people around were subtly gathering around them to curry favor. In contrast, no one dared to come near me. I'd only been abroad for 2 years, and these people had already forgotten the Jones family name. Nora's face also turned cold at some point. Today, I want these people to see who really deserves to be at the table. She put down her glass and walked towards the center of the banquet with a smile. Today, I specially invited Miss Daisy to celebrate my grandparents' golden wedding. I heard that Miss Daisy graduated from a dance academy before acting. Why don't you give us a dance? Daisy's face froze instantly. Asking a guest to dance was tantamount to public humiliation. Nora asked coldly, what, Miss Daisy isn't willing? Or do you think our G family isn't worthy? The 2 elders of the Brown family also looked over, causing Jason, who was about to speak, to hesitate. Biting her teeth. Daisy danced a bit. Since she hadn't practiced for a long time, she almost fell several times. Nora stepped forward and patted her on the shoulder. I asked you to dance because I think highly of you. Unfortunately, your dancing skills are too poor. It's a letdown. Daisy was so angry that her eyes turned red, and she ran out crying. As she passed me, she hissed, Melissa, I'll never let you off, you won't be happy for long. And I never even glanced at her. Nora came back to me, seeking praise. How was it? Feels good, right? I nodded honestly. What about the company project to expand into the European market? Her eyes lit up. I smiled fondly. It was already yours, but are you sure you can handle your brother? Don't worry. You've been abroad for 2 years. Do you think I've been idle? When Grandpa called Mildred back for this project, he was probably in bed with some woman. It almost sent Grandpa to the hospital, and I got the opportunity. Since Mildred is useless, someone else in the Brown family will step up. There was unwavering ambition on her face, looking at Jason in the distance, who was chatting and clinking glasses with Mildred while absent-mindedly looking out. I sneered, "Fiancé, your taste is truly abysmal." Not long after the banquet ended, a video of Jason drunkenly kissing Daisy landed on my phone. In the high-end private club, there were few people. Just a handful of rich kids close to Jason were around them. The lights were dim and hazy. Daisy's eyes were still slightly red, making her look even more alluring. "Jason, do you like Melissa or me?" Jason, with his collar askew, lay on the black sofa, hugging her slender waist and squinting slightly. "What is Melissa? She's not even worthy to be compared to you." Then, they kissed passionately. Again, as if no one else was there. Was this a blatant provocation? Who gave these idiotic rich second-generation kids the nerve? My eyes landed on the table in front of Jason. There was a logo I knew all too well. I made a call. "Turn off the main switch of the entertainment club and lock the doors." The person on the other end answered nervously, "Miss Jones, there are still people in the club. Mr. Willems is still there." If he wasn't there, why would I turn off the switch? The other end fell silent. "If he dares to come and smash the place tomorrow, call the police immediately and contact the legal department of the group." I heard that Jason spent the whole night playing escape room with his mistress that very night. In the end, when he saw the logo of the club, he finally realized what was going on and was so angry that he kicked the door several times. Jason hated me even more after that. He called me the next day to issue a harsh threat. "Melissa, just wait, the entire Jones family will pay for your stupidity." Actually, Jason and I had a proper 2-month relationship once. On the day of our engagement, he was almost beside himself with joy. Every time he saw me, there was even a bit more tenderness in his eyes. Of course, it wasn't because he loved me deeply. It was because he felt that he had finally won once. Jason and I were born in the same year. When we were born, the Jones and Willems families were still in their honeymoon period. As the only children of our respective families, we couldn't avoid being compared. From who learned to walk and talk first, to academic achievements and ability training, the two families were secretly competing, and I always came out on top. I was even better at fighting than him. However, Jason's parents had an unexpectedly good attitude. They still liked me very much every time they saw me, until one day in the courtyard, with no one else around, Mrs. Willems held my hand and said with a smile, "My future daughter-in-law is so capable. She will definitely help Jason manage the company well in the future." Then, she let out a sigh, feigning regret. "It's a pity that your mother has been in poor health since she was a child. After giving birth to a girl, she couldn't have any more children." It was only then that I understood that the reassurance for the Willems family was simply because they had a son. This was a concept I couldn't quite grasp as someone born into the Jones family. After all, my mother had aborted 2 male fetuses for me. When Jason grew up, he naturally adopted his parents' mindset. He wanted a caged bird, a virtuous wife. He believed that in a marriage, the wife should be submissive by nature, so he was happy to marry me. He only needed to win once in marriage, and he only had to win in this aspect. Unfortunately, just 2 months after our engagement, he couldn't control himself. At a cruise party, he was kissing one girl in each arm. I just slapped him once to make him face reality, and then had him thrown into the sea. It was Christmas that day. The seawater was freezing, and the winter night was extremely cold. He was hospitalized for a whole week. Jason's parents came to make a fuss, but my mother didn't even meet them. She only asked me, "If you want, we can cancel the engagement at any time." I comforted her with a light smile. "As long as I want. I have 10,000 ways to make them cancel the engagement, but not now." The Willems family was no longer suitable as an ally, but they still had some foundation. "But don't worry, Mom, a man like him will never enter the Jones family." Since then, Jason had completely hated me. Now that the conflict had intensified again, I guess the Willems family was about to make a move. The public opinion against company came faster than I expected. The first shot was fired with the video of me pushing Daisy down the steps in New York. Daisy was very popular at that time, and plenty of her fans rushed. To her defense, in less than a day, I was on the hot search of every major social media platform. Under each related video, there were short stories about the deep and tragic love between the rich and infatuated man and the beautiful starlet. From childhood sweethearts to a heartrending relationship, the so-called childhood sweethearts thing was just that the dance troupe Daisy was in when she was a child had performed at the Willems family once, a blurry video that you could hardly make out the faces and was dug up and paired with a tear-jerking background music, making it seem somewhat believable, and I was described as having a moral flaw. Soon, the news that the company I held in the United States was about to go public was also pushed to the forefront. Some media and financial bloggers subtly hinted that the Jones family was suspected of transferring assets. The Jones family was labeled as having an incorrect stance, and the stock price dropped for 3 days. I scrolled through the malicious comments on a securities app, calmly sipping my tea. At the other end of the table, the rich ladies were sitting close together, being coaxed into covering their mouths and laughing by Daisy from time to time. This was a gathering organized by Mrs. Chen. I had always disliked this kind of party where the topics revolved around husbands' affairs, children studying abroad, whose husband came home for dinner more often, and who had more private savings, but my mother wasn't feeling well. So I had to go instead. A lady was urged to come over and said maliciously, "Jones, I heard that the stock price of your Jones family has dropped a lot. If you're short of funds, don't keep it to yourself. We can all help you think of a way out." I put down my teacup and smiled faintly. The Jones family's stock market has indeed evaporated tens of billions in the past few days. I'm just wondering if Mrs. Black's private savings are enough to fill this hole. Mrs. Black looked embarrassed. Some ladies who didn't know much about the stock market were also startled. Another woman said, "Isn't your Jones family going to collapse? What about the cooperation with my husband, Mrs. Miller? Don't worry, your husband was having a wild night with 3 women in a hotel not long ago. He's not worried, so you don't need to be." Mrs. Miller's face also darkened. The young girls nowadays are so sharp-tongued and impetuous, unlike my son, who is studying in the United States, mature and steady, just waiting to graduate from Harvard and take over the family business. I twirled my teacup and said with a faint smile, "Your son is really outstanding. His boyfriend is also very handsome." I kindly reminded them last time I was in New York that AIDS is quite prevalent in the United States. Mrs. Anderson clutched her chest and started frantically dialing her phone. Daisy sneered, "What's the use of just being good at talking? You've offended so many ladies. Do you think the Jones family isn't dying fast enough? Melissa, Jason is mine now, and the Jones family is about to fall. I'd like to see what else can support your stupidity and arrogance when everything you once relied on is gone." Jason walked into the courtyard wearing a black overcoat, took Daisy's outstretched hand affectionately, and put it in his pocket to hold. He completely ignored my existence as his fiancée. Was it really necessary to hold a grudge until now just because I slapped them a few times when I caught them cheating years ago? I thought carelessly while looking at the notice on my phone. 15 days later, Company Group would hold an extraordinary general meeting of shareholders. The news that the Jones family was about to hold an extraordinary general meeting of shareholders had already made it to the headline of the local financial daily. During this period, that illegitimate child had emerged as the savior of the Jones family, constantly building up his popularity, while I was surrounded by all kinds of negative news and gradually marginalized in Company Group. Jason also didn't hesitate to kick me when I was down. He announced to the media that he had broken off the engagement with the Jones family and would get engaged to the actress Daisy on another day. For a time, I was despised by everyone. The media reported that I could only cry my eyes out every day. Cry my eyes out. I looked at the piles of project proposals, contracts, and official letters on my desk, and at Nora, who was full of energy, freely drawing the market blueprint in front of the whiteboard. I couldn't help but sigh. What businessmen fear most is losing themselves in the hustle and bustle and praise, being blinded by a single leaf. The general meeting of shareholders was held as scheduled. I put on a white suit and walked into the meeting room with ladies' leather shoes. The originally lively atmosphere instantly cooled down. I walked to the main seat in the meeting room and sat down naturally. Peter sneered, "Melissa, do you think you still deserve to sit in that seat?" I looked at him directly. "I hold 20% of the shares in the group and am the largest shareholder besides my mother. If I don't deserve it, do you? What do you have?" "The 10% of the shares that my irresponsible father got for his technology investment." I turned my head to look straight ahead, my eyes sweeping over every shareholder present. Ms. Jones Fong is not feeling well and can't attend this meeting, so I will preside over this general meeting of shareholders. The purpose of this meeting is to reorganize the board of directors, which is also my request. My proposal is to remove Mike from his position as vice chairman, and I will redraft the new draft list of the board of directors. As soon as I finished speaking, the meeting room was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Only Peter slammed the table and stood up angrily. Melissa, who do you think you are? Do you know how much loss and crisis you brought to company group, so you still know that company is surnamed Jones? You don't need to worry about our Jones family's affairs. Instead of worrying about this, you'd better care more about the subsidiary you manage. Ray is under investigation because of the improper dealings between you, Mike, and government officials. The official documents should have already arrived at the company. I've asked the lawyer for you. It's at least 3 years in prison. You're welcome. Peter widened his eyes. Are you crazy? If something happens to Ray, aren't you afraid it will affect the whole company? A mere subsidiary had long since changed hands internally. It was a burden, so it was better to cut it off in time. I didn't bother to answer him. If anyone else has questions, I will directly assume that he is colluding with the internal affairs of Ray. The future focus of company's work will continue to be on overseas business expansion, continuously promoting the development of the global market. My mother, Ms. Jones Fong, has entrusted me with full responsibility for the projects in the United States and Europe. I hope to receive your full support. These 2 projects account for nearly 30% of company's funds. As shareholders of company, you should know that we all rise and fall together. The meeting ended smoothly, and almost all the shareholders stood on my side, these shrewd people who were quick to adapt to the wind. How could they really risk everything and turn against the Jones family to side with the G father and son who had no real power? I curled my lips in satisfaction. Before leaving, I also dropped a sentence. Everyone is getting old. It's better to cause less trouble. Everyone thought that my return would trigger a fierce power struggle. Ridiculous. Seize power. Melissa didn't need to seize power at all, because the power had already belonged to me since I was born. After the meeting, I held an emergency press conference immediately. Besides emphasizing the absolute control of the Jones family over company group, I also brought up the deeds of Ms. Jones, the patriotic entrepreneur, and explained that the current business strategies of company group were all normal. Company was determined to promote national brands internationally, and it was also stated that there would be more investment in public welfare in the fields of education and medical care, shouldering more of the social responsibilities that a national enterprise should bear. My reputation began to reverse overnight. Even before I hired any internet trolls, netizens started to stand up for me, cursing that couple. One loved to cheat, and the other loved to be a mistress. They even dared to set up a deeply affectionate persona. Coincidentally, there were Chinese people present at that farce in New York, and they had taken a video. The public opinion started to turn around. No way, she actually knelt in front of the proper fiancé to beg. She's really shameless to the extreme. While others are busy making money, she's kneeling in front of someone to beg for a man. The man shouldn't hide. Jason, right, looking all dapper. But the so-called rich and infatuated man is just a hype. I was reading the comments with great interest. The next second, when I refreshed, I was prompted that the post had been deleted. The Willems family was really quick. The internet has a short memory. Since Jason doesn't often appear in public, without the spotlight, he will soon be forgotten. As for Daisy, a rising star actress, her love scandals are the most talked about. This one video was enough to ruin her reputation and nail her to the pillar of shame forever. I casually tapped the table with my finger. The head of the public relations department was sitting on the sofa waiting for instructions. Now, push all the posts about Jason and Daisy on the internet. For the ones with Jason, I continued slowly, push them especially hard. Although the relationship between the Jones and Willems families wasn't as close as before, they were still tied to each other's important projects, and there were many things to negotiate later. I had just returned to China, and as a junior, I should pay a personal visit. After ringing the doorbell of the Willems family's villa, it was Daisy who opened the door for me. She had been deeply involved in the public opinion storm recently and rarely showed her face in public, so she had been hiding in the Willems family. At this time, she had long since lost the halo of a popular star. Her hair was casually piled up, and she was dressed simply. Her face was full of exhaustion that couldn't be covered by light makeup. When the woman opposite looked up at me, hatred flashed in her eyes. "How dare you come to the Willems family's door, Melissa? I'm telling you, Jason has already broken off the engagement with you. Don't think that just because you won against Peter, you can win Jason's heart. Why would I want to win Jason's heart? I couldn't understand her way of thinking. Perhaps when a person can only hold on to a little something, they think everyone is coveting it. Only she regarded Jason as a treasure. Somehow, she suddenly raised her haughty face, assuming the posture of a hostess, and sneered, "There are no extra slippers at home. You'd better come back another day. Don't dirty the floor of our Willems family." I simply ignored her and walked straight into the house. Jason's parents were sitting upright on the mahogany armchairs, looking displeased. Clearly, they had been waiting for me. Jason was casually leaning on a single chair, tapping the mahogany armrest with his fingertips one by one. Daisy stood beside them, complaining to Jason's parents aggrievedly, "Uncle, Auntie, look at her. She's dirted the floor." I curled my lips. "If the floor is dirty, just clean it up." Daisy was furious. "What do you mean?" I sneered. "Isn't that right? I thought you were working as a nanny here." Daisy got even angrier but didn't dare to flare up on the spot. She could only turn to Jason's parents for help. Mrs. Willems had never looked favorably upon Daisy, and now she felt even more humiliated, so she simply ignored her. Mr. Willems frowned and coughed lightly. "Melissa, I know you're here to talk about cooperation today. Let's put business aside for now and talk about your marriage with Jason first." All the color drained from Daisy's face, and Jason also looked unhappy. It was Jason who was being irresponsible. He doesn't represent the Willems family. This marriage was arranged by the previous generation and mustn't be taken lightly, I said coldly. Mr. Willems took a sip of tea and said calmly, "Melissa, you're still young. I know you were behind the news about Jason last time. The Willems family won't pursue this either. But it's normal for men to have some flings outside. They'll settle down when they get home." I mocked. "Perhaps Mr. Willems also has some flings outside, so he thinks it's normal." Everyone in the room changed their expressions. Jason's face darkened. "Melissa, is that how you talk to my dad? I'm telling you, if the Jones and Willems family still want to cooperate, the Jones family must give up another 5 percentage points in profit. Otherwise, there's no need to talk." "Great." I stood up, showing a relaxed smile. "Since you brought it up, I don't need to worry about the elders' feelings anymore. I'm here today to inform you that all the future cooperation projects between the Jones and Willems families are off. I've already vetoed all the relevant proposals." Mr. Willems slammed the table and pointed at me, scolding, "Do you want to ruin the Jones family?" "No." I wagged my finger at him. "It's you who have ruined the Willems family." I didn't need disloyal allies. Since they had chosen the wrong side, the Willems family should be out of the game. The listing process in the United States started as usual. During this time, I was so busy that my days and nights were reversed, flying frequently between the two countries. The Willems family's revenge came as expected. They not only cancelled the original orders and cooperation but also joined forces with other companies to besiege our products. Regarding this, Nora's comment on the phone was, "Thanks to those stupid peers for the big business gift package." She took over all the remaining product lines on behalf of the Brown family. Taking over even part of the Jones family's production capacity requires extremely high capital turnover and sales capabilities for a company. Only then did everyone realize that the Brown family's ambitions seemed to be much stronger than they appeared. The Willems family was too arrogant. There would always be a leading company in an industry, but the leading position wouldn't always belong to the same one. Instead of seeing the Jones family fall into a capital turnover crisis as they hoped, the Willems family lost quite a few well-maintained markets because they no longer had the Jones family's support. Many major customers also smelled the change in the wind and began to terminate their cooperation with the Willems family one after another. Nora was having a great time picking up the leftovers. I was busy promoting projects while suppressing the Willems family crazily. Jason called me more than once, but I didn't answer any of them, until he came to me in person. "Melissa, are you crazy? What on earth do you want?" He was like a wild beast. His face distorted. There was no trace of the calmness and confidence I saw him with last time. "What do I want? Of course, it's revenge," I sneered. He then sat down on the sofa, tugging at his tight tie. "Do you know why I dislike you so much? I dislike you so much that I'd rather change women like crazy than marry you." I also sat down calmly. "Because you can't control your lower body, just like a bird." He was stunned for a moment, then burst into rage. "That's because you've always been vengeful and have a heart as venomous as a snake. Look at Daisy, she knows how to please a man, how to be considerate and understanding. You don't act like a woman at all." I tilted my head to look at him. "Vengeful, venomous. Are you referring to when you brought people to tease me when we were kids and I threw you into the fountain? Or when you cheated on me for the first time after our engagement and I almost made you infertile? I poked his shoulder, disdainfully saying, trash should know its place and admit defeat. Instead of always imagining that your opponent will get weaker, his face turned red with anger, and he raised his hand, wanting to hit me. Jason, do you dare to lay a hand on me here? I stared at his eyes. I'll send you to jail. When Jason left, his face was even worse than when he came. He couldn't win in the business war and couldn't even win an argument. Such an opponent was really boring. The Willems family was really desperate. Mr. and Mrs. Willems even held a banquet to find a marriage partner for Jason, trying to win over a reliable ally for the Willems family through an arranged marriage. However, which wealthy young lady in LA hadn't heard of Jason's scandalous past? Thanks to me, the sordid affair between him and Daisy had spread explosively on major social media for a whole week, providing great entertainment for netizens. I guess everyone would think of those overwhelming salacious hot searches when they saw his face now. Jason's reputation was completely ruined, but the Willems family was still so self-righteous that they refused to lower their standards. However, the powerful families that could help the Willems family would never look favorably upon Jason. It was said that no one showed up at the banquet that day, and Mr. Willems smashed quite a few things at home in anger. After finishing the last roadshow in the United States, I ran into Peter on the plane back to China. I heard that Mike had taken all the blame to protect him and received a heavy sentence. Peter didn't let his father down either. He had been lying low, rarely showing up. He had only been getting close to the Willems family recently. When getting off the plane, he deliberately walked to my side and whispered menacingly, Melissa, don't think you've won. As long as I still have that 10% of the shares in my hand, I'll make company restless forever, and you stupid women will never understand the importance of technology. I stopped in my tracks, looking at Peter's back. The anger in my eyes grew stronger. Peter moved faster than I expected. With the financial support of the Willems family, he cooperated with another manufacturing company to develop a new type of robot. It had similar functions to the latest product of the Jones family but was cheaper. Then it was exported through the Willems family, deliberately competing with the Jones family for the market, overestimating himself. Did he really think my 2 years in the United States were for nothing? I called the legal department of my American company and asked them to quickly sue Peter's company for patent infringement in the American court. Then I made an appointment to meet Nora. The woman sitting across from me was eager to try. I said firmly, I want the Willems family to have no chance of making a comeback this time. Don't worry. I've been keeping an eye on them for so many years just for the chance to bring them down one day. They've been sitting in that position for too long, too comfortably. It's time for them to move aside and give others a chance. I nodded, the power struggle within the Brown family. The company will always stand behind you. Pleasant cooperation. The most shocking news often breaks out quietly. Rachel, the chairman of the Willems Group, was taken away for investigation on suspicion of defrauding state export tax rebates. Due to the huge amount involved, part of the group's funds was frozen. The entire Willems Group was in a panic. The Willems Group had just carried out a large-scale layoff not long ago because of the shrinking business scale, and because they couldn't afford the severance compensation, they were sued for labor arbitration by many employees. Now that the chairman had been arrested, the employees were even more disunited. The employees blocked Jason in the company, asking for guarantees in the camera lens. I watched as the once high and mighty Mr. Willems was pushed around in the corner by the employees. His delicate and expensive suit was wrinkled in a sorry state, but he still forced a smile to appease everyone. But how could I let him have an easy time? I generously released another piece of blockbuster news to the media. The chairman of the Willems Group had transferred more than 15 billion yuan of assets overseas in 3 years. Now, Jason wasn't just being pushed around. Quite a few hot-headed employees had already thrown punches at him. In the camera, the curses and police sirens were mixed together. Using our hard-earned money to live a dissipated life abroad and keep a mistress, right, beast, hit him. The noble young master who had cursed me for being vengeful in my office not long ago had become a despised outcast overnight. When something happened to the Willems family, Peter couldn't stay out of it either. To catch up with the progress of the Jones family in research, development, and production, he needed a huge and continuous influx of funds. Now that the funds were cut off, all his efforts would be in vain. At this moment, the only thing of value in his hand was the shares of the Jones family. I set a trap and quickly bought his shares at an extremely low price. and what awaited him next were double accusations of intellectual property infringement filed by the company group in both Chinese and American courts. Daisy wasn't completely stupid. Seeing that the Willems family was about to fall, she immediately copied my move and held a media conference. In the conference, her eyes were red and swollen, filled with tears. With simple light makeup, she looked even more remorseful and pitiful. Her deliberately low-cut top revealed several shocking red marks on her shoulders and collarbone. She cried and repented to the camera. It was Jason who lied to me and forced me to be a mistress. After I found out, I had a big fight with him and tried to run away, but he caught me. He even used violence on me. I really know I was wrong. I just want Miss Melissa's forgiveness now. I was so stupid and hurt her. Actors really lived up to their name. The entertainment industry was an industry that relied on beauty. As long as your appearance didn't fade and you had some topic value, there would always be fans spoiling you. Any negative news was just the nourishment for being popular in a controversial way. Daisy's face was her biggest reliance. I looked at the barrage of Water Army comments constantly scrolling under the live broadcast, saying the beauty is really pitiful, and pressed my slightly throbbing temples. It's a pity, didn't Jason tell you? I'm the kind of person who always gets even. I bought all of Daisy's black materials from the paparazzi at a high price. It wasn't the first time I'd treated netizens to some juicy gossip for free. I was also very proficient in promoting and using the Water Army, playing diva on the set, tax evasion, sleeping with married big shots. I released one piece of news every day, just that willful. Daisy was soon strongly boycotted and completely blocked by the whole industry. She issued a statement to quit the entertainment circle in disgrace and disappeared from the public eye. The investigation and evidence collection against the Willems family was a very long process, but with the chairman in jail and the young master of the Willems family becoming a rat everyone wanted to beat, everyone knew that the Willems family was finished. On my 28th birthday, I officially became the largest shareholder of the Jones-Ming Group and the youngest chairman of the Jones-Ming Group. On the day Nora led her company to enter the free trade pilot zone in LA, I was invited to the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Quite a few entrepreneurs from LA were present. Everyone had a friendly and pleasant smile on their face, standing around me, waiting to clink glasses and chat with me. I'm not used to drinking white wine. I could only raise my teacup and use tea instead of wine. Seeing this, someone also changed their drink to tea. I heard that President Jones loves tea. Having a taste today, it really has a unique flavor. Although the tea fragrance is light, it's more intoxicating than strong liquor. Nora finally managed to pull me out from the flood of flattering words. These old guys, they're flattering as if they've never had tea in their lives. I looked at the tea leaves floating and sinking in the cup. When the Willems family was still prosperous, they used to call Jason the young master of LA one after another. Now that the glory was mine, they said I was the brightest pearl in LA. I said extremely calmly, as long as you always stand above them, water can be more fragrant than wine. Nora was silent for a while. What are you going to do with the Willems family and that Peter later? I looked out at the distant sea and curled my lips. They're already out of the game, Nora. Our eyes should be set on a more distant journey. Extra chapter. Daisy was on the hot search again after being silent for a long time. The title was The Washed-Up Actress Has a Huge Fight with Her Former Sugar Daddy. This time, it really wasn't me who bought the hot search, but it was easy to give it a little push in the video. The two were fighting each other desperately. The paparazzi explained in the caption that Jason had gone to Daisy to ask for the return of the mansions and luxury cars he had given her. Daisy called him crazy, saying that she was extremely unlucky to have met such a scumbag. It was a dog-eat-dog situation. They cursed each other on the street, revealing each other's dirty secrets. There was no trace of love on their faces, only hatred, as if they wanted to tear each other apart. I couldn't help but think of that day in New York. Daisy had said, "True love is the truth." It was so ridiculous. Someone knocked on the door. I turned off my phone screen and said, "Come in." Secretary Irene, wearing a black suit, walked in. "President Jones, the new product launch event is about to start, and all the participants have arrived." I looked at my watch. "Let's go."